This week on Between Two Beers, we talk to Darren Shand.
Darren is the longest-serving manager in All Blacks history. 20 years in the role, 256 tests, 4 World Cup campaigns, back-to-back titles in 2011 and 2015. He worked alongside Graham Henry, Steve Hansen, Wayne Smith and Ian Foster, and now runs his own high-performance consultancy, Winning Teams.
This episode takes you right inside the heart of the All Blacks machine across their most dominant period. Darren is a clean thinker, and the insights he shares from having a front row seat at sport's highest level make this an incredibly compelling listen. You're going to love this one.
Between Two Beers is proudly brought to you by One New Zealand. We believe that One New Zealand connects New Zealand, while Between Two Beers connects New Zealanders. And together, we are New Zealand's most trusted connection platform.
Between Two Beers is also supported by TAB. Keen for more action on sports and racing? Download the TAB app or visit tab.co.nz to get your bet on. R18, bet responsibly.
And Seamus and I are also proud to be dressed by Barkers. Check out their range at barkersonline.co.nz.
Enjoy.
Darren Shand, welcome to Between Two Beers.
Yeah, great to be here, man. Very, very excited to be here, actually.
We're very excited to have you in the One New Zealand studio in Hamilton this morning. First question. Have you done more bus or car rides from Auckland to Hamilton across the last 20 years?
Oh, that's an intriguing question. Yeah, we always took the bus to Hamilton. Highlight was always stopping at, is it Pokino?
Yeah.
Yes.
For the ice creams?
For the ice creams?
Whew.
Yes.
I don't know whether that technically classifies as still ambassador areas, but we'll claim Pokino as.
Yeah, no, I thought it was Brad Thorne, the only
No,
All
you
Black
are
I've seen to have a 6-scooper.
Didn't know they went to 6.
Proudly walked back to the bus with it.
Yeah.
You were never part of like an advance party that came early? Or were you always with the team on the bus?
We had a crew that loved to be the advance.
Yeah.
And so, I was always, no, you need to be with the team.
Same seat on the bus?
Yes, 1B.
I love I'm going to love this
Who was
detail.
1A?
1B forever. Originally, Graham Henry, and latterly Gilbert Anoka.
Wow.
So,
1B.
Yeah. Good company.
Very good. Yeah.
That leads nicely into where we want to start. So part of our process at Between Two Beers, we ask our guests for some contacts we can talk to about their lives and career. People who know them well, good friends and family. And you provided the most impressive list of contacts we've ever received.
Yeah.
26 names and numbers in total.
It's good.
So in and amongst them, in and amongst family and friends were previous Between Two Beers guests like Steve Chu, Sir Wayne Smith, Ian Foster, Sam Whitelock and Brad Thorne. But there was also Sir Graham Henry, Sir Steve Hansen, Richie McCaw, Dan Carter, Kevin Mialamu, Ma Nonu, Bowden Barrett and Ardie Savia. It was a real power move. But I wondered if they all know we now have their contact details and we'll be calling them every day.
This is a high trust model.
Yeah.
So, yeah. You didn't actually give me, I had no idea what you wanted or needed. So
That's good.
I thought, well, I always believe go wide so you can go narrow.
Yeah.
And I wasn't sure the direction you had. So, and I guess in the role I had, because I was so general, there wasn't once, I wasn't part of the coaching group, but I was, so I guess my role was so wide that the impact was across lots of people and maybe not to the depth of the coaches who were like living in each other's pocket. I would only live in a coaching meeting and then get out of there. So, it was hard to sort of say who were the biggest influences. There was a lot that were influenced at a moderate to high level, but not a whole lot that were like fully in my face the whole time, so
Yeah,
it was hard to pick.
Well, the good news for us, I think we've got the guest list sorted for at least the back half of this year, maybe even into early next year. So you've done us a real solid there.
Maybe they're gonna be coming hard at me now.
there was recently, this was a few weeks ago, I think, reunion. 2011 and 2015, the team all got together.
Yeah.
What can you take us behind the scenes? Like, what happens there? Who's organising it? What do you actually do?
Yeah, do you have to organise that as the manager?
No, I didn't.
Oh, good.
No. Yeah, I missed the cut on the organising committee. There'd been talk for quite a while. In fact, I remember one day Dan Carter's agent said to me, Dan wants you to organise a reunion because he wants a party with the team again. But then just out of the blue, probably the beginning of this year, we got a note through Rob Nichol, actually, through the Players Association. So they'd sort of taken the initiative, got a few people together, and they just pulled it together. And we started at the All Blacks Experience, Ian Jones hosting us, and we actually went through the experience, which was, I guess, personally set up for us.
Oh, wow.
And so people that were absent, I don't know if you've done the All Black experience, but there's a section where you go into the changing room and you sit there and there's some monitors that share, stories of All Black history. But these were stories from people who were absent, stories about the tournament. And to my great delight, I still feature as okay, 5 minutes to kick off.
Oh, is that your voice?
That's my voice, yeah.
Oh, how good.
And so then we walked into the room where the haka is, and you have this big screen, and it was both the hakas from those finals. And we're standing in front.
Wow.
Yeah. But when you walk into a room, when you've done something with people, it just feels right. Like it just took me back straight away. The conversations, everything just flows. People just walk in the room and the conversation started. There was no need for introductions, or it would just, there's just a connectivity. It's hard to explain, but there's just a connectivity that happens. And walking, Wasaki Naholo, where have you been?
Yeah.
And you're just like, wow. And even I actually pulled the photos out because I just wanted to be sure that I could remember, because there's been so many teams. And there was a little bit of a quiz, I think, in our individual units, management, forwards, backs, whatever. And I think one group actually missed a player, they got hammered. So that was day one. Day two, we met, had a team meeting, like a check-in. And it was really just a check-in, house life, tell us some of your stories. That was emotional. Some people had been through some tough periods and were open to share. So that was, again, I talk about how great is an environment where people instantly just feel free to be themselves. And that was very, very cool. And then, we were hosted by Ali and Anna at their place, had a barbecue in the afternoon. Conrad Smith and Dan Carter ran a club rooms, which has been an All Black traditions. I'm sure you've heard about that. Wayne Smith, after many attempts, finally got across the line. And so we had a club rooms, which was great, and we had all the kids there and the family. So it was
what is a club rooms?
The club rooms was an idea that Smithy put to the team that once a week we'd meet as a group purely with social intentions to decompress in the middle of the week. So typically Sunday, Monday, heavy days, a lot of training, getting ready. Time you get to Tuesday night, we had Wednesday off. And so we decided we'd always bring the team together. We'd meet, put on our club jerseys. We would have a club captain, a club president. We'd have an auction. A raffle, not an auction, a raffle. That became a point of contention in who could run the best raffle. And actually we ran the raffle at this, and there was a number of people that had run the raffle, so that was a contentious who would be allowed to run the raffle at this reunion.
Hopefully it's a meat pack.
What was the prize?
No, we're way past meat packs.
Oh.
We're talking like, a slab of Steinlager, gym equipment for your home, cash prizes. Yeah. The funny thing was every Tuesday we'd have 2 meals a week on tour where I'd give the players cash. It'll literally go straight into the raffle. I'd head out on a Tuesday night and it'll just go straight into the raffle draw. And they were lots of special. We'd have often special guests. Other players would come, other sports people would come in, and you have this dynamic of the mutual. I call it the mutual appreciation society. Like we're overwhelmed that they're in our room, and they're overwhelmed that they're in our room.
Yeah.
So some special moments there. A great way of bringing our young players forward and understanding their journey, particularly in rugby. So using the club. Okay, tell us your story about your club and what do you know about your club. It kept everyone honest around staying connected with the game. So once NPC started, which was when we're playing, if you were from that region, you had to know who they were playing, what the score was, how they went last weekend. So there was a lot to it that I guess subconsciously contributed a lot to our environment and knowing where we came from, what we're all there for, and what we're about. So pretty heavy fines if you didn't have your club jersey, especially for repeat offenders. I know mine. I got mine, and I wore the same jersey for 20 years, and it got tighter and tighter. So they were good times. But Smithy tried. He put the idea forward, and I think it took 3 or 4 times for the leadership group, which is a combination of management and players, to finally get it across the line. And the first time we did it, it was a hit, and it survived. I think it still survived to this day. So, and I think a few even of the super clubs have adopted it as a a routine in their week.
Just sounds like the best get together ever with your old friends you haven't seen in so long doing this. There's a lot of big personalities in that group, a lot of alphas. Who's holding court? Like, is everyone kind of gathered around a main storyteller? Is everyone
Sir Graham was.
Sir Graham?
Sir Graham. Yeah, well, we went into the haka and then we came out and so Graham was allowed to speak. He just stole the show. It was vintage Ted, absolutely vintage. And compared to the others, he totally nailed it. Yeah, I think he'd had a couple of Merlots too many, and he was great. Just all the little Tedisms, they were all out the white hot boys, just magnificent.
Steve Hansen, did he?
Yeah, Steve was very. How would I describe Steve? Yeah, very in the moment. Steve's a very emotional person, and very intuitive. And so I think on the back of what Graham had done, he sort of felt the room and just, I guess in terms of talking the 2015 experience, he just talked on a different level, much more emotional.
I find that surprising. I've never seen Steve Hansen emotional, and I think that's going to be part of the beauty of this episode is sort of taking us behind the scenes because we only see him from the
media
press conferences and the media stuff.
Yeah, no, he's a very intuitive, very caring man, even though he's a very tough man, and I don't mean that in the wrong sense, but I think what we managed to build inside the group was an environment where you could contest everything, and Steve particularly, he loved the challenge of that. His nickname was Last Word. And so there were so many times I would leave a meeting just feeling like bashed to pieces, not taking it personally because I knew we were there for the right reason. He'd come up to the door and he'd put his arm around me, I love you, son. Oh, yeah, okay. Careful of that bruise there. Well, that was a good thing about him, that you knew. And Steve too was similar, both quite alpha, but the care, you could not get past the care. And I always knew there was an arm around me, despite the challenge, because that's probably the biggest lesson Steve taught me was to think deeper about everything and impact. And yes, sometimes he would go to the nth degree around what you're trying to, particularly when it's non-rugby related, what you're trying to get across the line is really going to impact performance. So I had to become a really good, is this battle worth fighting or do I back off here? Or actually, no, sorry, Steve, I'm going to have to get some other people on my side to convince you that we need to do this for the right reasons. So, no, he did have there's a real soul to Steve. Yeah.
That was quite a good shag.
We often go fish. I was only going fishing for a shag, but we got a lot.
Yeah.
It's an interesting turn of phrase that'll be clipped out probably.
20 years of every test match, him in my ear.
Yeah.
The world's greatest mumbler.
Because you were mic'd up, weren't you?
I was mic'd up, yeah.
You were one of the ones.
I'm listening to Steve play the game upstairs and trying to be a filter.
Oh, wow.
And I became a very good liar,
Yeah.
Head to head. What are they saying out there? That's all good, Steve. Oh, sorry, connection, no, not good at altitude in Johannesburg. Sorry. You might have to repeat that one.
Well, that's just one of the many, I guess, facets of a team manager's role, which I guess is a good place to start. Like what does the All Blacks manager job entail? Because manager itself probably massively undersells the job. People probably think their interpretation of a manager filling up drink bottles, setting up the kit, maybe making sure the bus is there.
I think historically, and that's probably where I started with the Crusaders and Canterbury Rugby. So what happened after the 2003 World Cup, Mitchell and Deans, the board of New Zealand Rugby decided to change the way things were done because they were concerned that the game was bigger than just the game now. We're in quite a way into the professional era. Suddenly we've got international sponsors, we've got fans with different expectations, we've got the media with different expectations, social media starting to grow. And so everything outside of the game had got a whole lot bigger than, it wasn't just a matter of turning up, put the jerseys on, play a game anymore. So they created a new role and that was a general manager's role. So rather than being a manager, you're actually a leader, which is quite a distinction. And I know we'll come to some of the details of that later, but in essence, when I first started, I was Graham Henry's boss. And so I know now with the current situation, they're looking to appoint someone as a high-performance director, I think, which will be similar. Sometimes in football, I think they call it the technical director or the sporting director or something like that. So it was really to, I guess, provide, and in short, how Graham and I worked is he said, I just want to coach, can you do everything else? And I guess that was how we sort of summarised it. He'll look after the things that happen on the grass, and I take care of everything else. And in the end, we did that. Not quite hand in hand, but side by side.
But you're also sitting at the top table of NZR at that point as well. Every decision from 2004 till you left, you've got a voice at that senior leadership team.
Yeah, I was part of the executive of New Zealand Rugby as well. So, but that was important. I guess if you had to summarise it, because New Zealand Rugby's, you got the various departments: community, commercial, professional. The All Blacks was a business category, and I'm effectively the CEO because I'm reporting to that side of the business to make sure things happen. So. And that, it morphed and changed and it moved during the period with different coaches, and we set it up differently. And I think particularly for me, what grew even more, like the operational stuff is easy. That's just a system. You just build that and it happens. But the growth of the commercial side of the game, the expectations from media grew. How do we still stay in touch with fans when we're these icons of sport? All of that consumed me. Security became a massive issue for us travelling the world because of 9/11 and all of those things. So in a lot of ways, I got further away from the game in some senses because that became so massive. And particularly my last years, I felt quite isolated, not as connected as I'd been earlier. But that was the way it had gone.
But as you explained, you're still right on the sideline as well in the game. You've got the coach in your ear, and you're. I guess
I didn't want to give that one up.
Yeah, well,
that was the highlight.
That's the cool part of the job, right?
What a privilege, to sit sideline with the boys for every test, just like this close to the action, and I love that. Yeah, and I love the pressure of it. I'm not really a rugby man, but I love the competition, and I love listening to the banter on the bench and watching these guys get ready to go.
I spoke to Steve Chu in the build up to this, and I asked him for, what's some good stories about Shandy. And he said, well, you can't let him get away without explaining when you had the number 16 on the field against South Africa in 2013. Yeah. So I think I might start there and get your perspective. What happened there?
So one of the tasks I had to do was present a sheet to the match manager on arrival at the stadium, all the players listed with their correct numbers. So I did that for that test. We're in the second half of a test match. I think it was 2013 against South Africa, playing at one of the Mandela stadiums. I can't remember which one. In the second half, Liam Messam had just been sin-binned, and so I'm dealing with that on the sideline, and then I've got Steve Amir. All right, son, you need to put on 16, bring off Andrew Hall. Okay, Steve. So I go to the sideline, go, 2's off, 16's on, and so I'm getting, I think it was Dane Coles ready. Next thing, this official, who's a South African, comes to me and says, you can't do it. I said, what do you mean? He said, look at your sheet. It says Kevin Mialamu, and you're trying to put Dane Coles on. Where's Kevin Mialamu? I said, oh, bro, he's like, see the stand? He's really at the top there, and he's in his suit. He says, oh, you have to get him down.
Oh, wow.
I said, oh, you're kidding. Meanwhile, Steve going, what's going on down there, son? Get the sub on. I said, no, it's all good. Steve goes, don't look too good from up here. So the next thing, the sideline official contacts the referee, who stops the game.
Oh, my God.
So my entire career,
Are you like physically reacting to that?
I'm like,
or are you quite calm?
I'm a flatliner, Takes a lot to get me, yeah. And so saying, oh, son, looks like you're meant to get out there. So I trot on out there.
Onto the field?
Onto the field, called out by the referee.
During the game?
During the game. He stops the game.
Is this the first time you've ever been on the field during a test match?
Yeah, so I've been capped once. Yeah. 256 tests. I did manage to get on once.
This is Nigel Owens, right?
Nigel Owens is on there. And look, this is interesting because in the business that I do now, I talk to audiences about who you are. Like in that moment, under the most pressure, who I was mattered more than anything. And so one thing I did through my entire career was think that the referees are humans and that I'm probably the front door. So I need to have a really, honourable, respectful, an All Black standard relationship with them. Because I know in the background I've got coaches constantly looking at how they perform and spending, in my opinion, an inordinate amount of time trying to understand them when it actually will make no difference. So I walked out there that week when we played them. On the Monday, I was at reception of the hotel. Nigel walked into the hotel. G'day, Nigel, good to see you. How you going? Oh, it's been a tough flight from London and I've lost all my bags. I went, oh, well, do you need some kit? He goes, oh, that'd be nice. I said, oh, we're sponsored by Adidas. I'll take you down the kit room. Here you go. I'll give you this. I'll give you that. Need a watch? A gold one? No. And so when I walked out, good relationship with him, The captain on the day was Jean de Villiers. Earlier that year, I'd flown to Africa to do a recce and just make sure everything in place. Who happens to be sitting next to me on the plane? Jean de Villiers. He'd been injured playing Super Rugby. He was flying back home. So 15 hours, getting to know each other. Went and had a barbecue at his house that week. So I walk out there knowing that I've made a mistake. And in the end, Nigel just said to Jean, well, do you think Darren's done this on purpose? He goes, no. Nigel, let's play on. Wow. That was it. So, I might have said a bit more like, oh, come on, Nigel, you know me, I wouldn't have done that. And, been here 100 tests or whatever. But I think in the end, it was a pretty salient lesson about, who you are really matters. And I was calm enough. I certainly could feel this. And I remember walking into the changing room and first person I saw was Andrew Hoare. He's like, oh, you're going to pay for that.
Yeah, I bet.
And I was like, in that moment, I just had a little moment. I was like, I remember in that game, they scored first, right? And it was Brian Habana, he chipped and chased. And guess who was defending Habana? Hoare. I went, oh, the coach will be pretty mad with you, mate, missing that tackle on Habana in the first 2 minutes. Just to finish the story, I think we ended up in Dunedin the next week and we had club rooms. And I walked into club rooms, there was this biggest jug of beer I've ever seen at the top table. We didn't normally have jugs. It wasn't a drinking sort of scenario. I thought, oh, yeah, they're going to have Dick of the Week and it's going to be me, So they called for nominations for, things that had gone wrong that week. I just walked straight up. I'm like, come on, boys, we all know it, Anyway, they were really struggling to find one. And then one of the boys goes, oh, yeah, Charlie Famuina was wearing the wrong socks the other day. So they put Charlie up there. Then they voted.
Oh, wow.
Who should get it? And it was by voice. Shandy, your silence. Charlie, yeah! So Chaz had to do the jug. And, I got away with it. So, respect for the manager.
Yeah.
Very good.
Yeah, I dodged one that day, honestly.
That's great behind the scenes detail of the relationships and the importance. And I think that's going to come throughout the chat. Steve mentioned that it actually stands out because it was one of the only bungles across your whole career, which speaks to how well you ran the team and how few mistakes you made, which I think is an important detail to add. But keen to go back to the start and want to sort of build a picture of Darren Shand and how you became in front of us today. And we had a chat with your sister, Maria, who is herself an incredibly accomplished lawyer with her own law firm. And she shared something with us that I want to read. She said, our father passed away last year and Darren and I spoke at his funeral. And one of the things that Darren said about my father was actually something that I would say about Darren. He said, Darren said Dad was never above, never below, always alongside. And I think that sums up Darren in terms of who he is as a person. Are you able to talk to us about what that saying means to you?
I think I've always believed in the human spirit and that there's good in everyone. Not only do I think about my dad right now, but I'm thinking of people like Zach Guilford and the trials that kid went through and how no matter what, a couple of times I publicly backed him in front of New Zealand's media with him sitting beside me. And then the next week something else happened. But I never gave up on him. In the end, he moved and we moved and his life continued. But I always felt that, I just felt that was who I was. And I think that came from Dad. Most humble man I've probably ever met. I remember Dad was a teacher all his life, and he stopped teaching, did some work in education for a while, and then he landed a job at a winery in Hawke's Bay as the gardener. Greenfing, he loved it. And he's got his golf cart and he's driving around the winery and doing his work. And he came home one Christmas with a box of wine. I said, why did you get that, Dad? He goes, I was just, they loved me there and they gave me that. And he said, my whole career I've never had anything. He was so excited, by it. I said, we get that every day at the All Blacks, we get given stuff all the time. But that was sort of the person he was. And so I guess, probably subconsciously didn't even realise I took that with me. But I think that always was my way. Always believed in people if you made this team, I believed in you even more because you had the talent, and if I could walk beside you and help you grow that, then that was part of what I was there for too.
Maria also spoke about your incredible parents, Jim and Nairi, both teachers, both sporty, who gave you and her every opportunity to play sport, try things, explore things. And she says it's only now, looking back, that she can see how much of who you are comes directly from them, and that you're both incredibly grateful for it. But can you tell us more about Jim and Nairi? What's the most important thing that they gave you in your childhood and upbringing?
It was almost one of those childhoods that was unremarkable, but it was remarkable, if that makes sense, very safe house. Every Friday, the teachers from the school used to come around to our house. We'd have a barbecue Friday night. We had a tennis court, grass one. So I'd go race home after school, get it mowed and marked, and we'd always have people around. In those days, when you sat at the dinner table, you connected and you had conversations, and we always had conversations about life, about what they were doing and teaching. When Dad was teaching, tomorrow's schools came in, so it went from suddenly had boards of trustees, and Dad really struggled with that because he was like brought in people that know nothing about it to tell us what to do. And so I remember him talking a lot about that. Always gave us opportunity in sport or support. Like Mum coached netball her whole life, Dad coached rugby his whole life. When I deviated from the rugby path, I think it was a bit sad for him, but he never stopped supporting. This just made it easy, like it was. Nothing was hard. We weren't particularly well off, but we were well off, if that makes sense. Dad was a man of the faith, so that was important to him, and I think he brought us up with those values, particularly Christianity and how you treat people, walking beside people. I think that's where that probably came from. He never missed Sunday mass. That was in fact, the day he died. Not the day he died. Early that week, when the doctor came and said, "Look, this is nothing we can do now." He just said, "It's all good. The Holy Spirit's with me," and that was him to a T. He said it with a smile on his face. Yeah. It was very special. Actually, that sort of brought me a lot of comfort in that moment. As much as it was hard the next few days watching him pass, but by the time I got to the funeral, I was actually in celebration mode. Wow. What a great man! I miss him dearly.
Maria said that sport was a big part of your upbringing, and she sort of said there was a formative patch where your hockey, you made like the New Zealand under-19 hockey team at 16, and then it was perhaps a bit early, and then you kind of didn't make it the next year. And she kind of described, she reflected on this as being something that she saw as like a major part of your childhood, and perhaps pushed you in a direction that you went. Is that
it was a really hard. I loved all sport. I think I played for my school in every sport going. As I finished high school, cricket and hockey I was in the first 11 at school from year 9. Cricket.
You can say third form, it's okay. We all know third form. We all know third form.
Yeah, I was a third form in the first 11, and I was playing rugby at that stage too, and then hockey at the same time, and I got a break with hockey, so I started playing men's hockey at 14, I think, and club hockey in Hawke's Bay. And had a guy in the club who just took me under his wing. He was very close to playing New Zealand level, so I used to train really hard with him. And I'm a bit of an overfunctioner, so I just put everything into it, And I went to a tournament. I think it was a New Zealand under-21 tournament, and got selected for that side. And I was 16, but I had no confidence. I constantly undersold myself, and I remember. I played a few games for that team. We didn't play anyone international. We just played an internal tournament. But next year I went to uni in Dunedin, and there was I think a Junior World Cup that year, and I was like, I've got to make it. I put so much pressure on myself. I did no orientation in my first year. The boys that I roomed with on the ground floor of Arana Hall in Dunedin were trying to drag me out. I was like, no, I'm in the gym. I'm practicing. I'm running. And they constantly laugh about me with my cones down in the indoor room at Arana Hall practicing so much. And I missed the team that year. I think I ended up being a non-travelling reserve. But I remember going to that tournament just feeling pressure, like, I've got to do it. And I started looking at everybody else thinking, he's playing, rather than what can I do? And I just wasn't ready. I just didn't have I wish I knew what I knew now around the mental side of the game and how to self-talk and prepare yourself for that and believe. And so I missed, and I really fell apart after that. At the end of that season, I went to the New Zealand men's nationals with the Otago team. The year prior with Hawke's Bay, we'd made the semi-finals of the nationals, just little Hawke's Bay. We beat Canterbury in pool play, and we're playing Auckland in the semis. I'm marking Ramesh Patel, one of our Olympians from 1976, And I scored a goal in that semi. We lost. We finished third, I think, or fourth, which was great for little Hawke's Bay. And next year I'm playing for Otago in Division 3. We're playing Southland. I've got some scrub hacker marking me, and I just lost it mentally. I actually got my stick out and smashed him around the legs because he just was annoying me, and it's in my head. He's living, as Mark Watson would say, living rent-free in my head. And Mum and Dad, I was just so ashamed. I just stopped playing. I never picked up a hockey stick after that again.
Wow.
Because there was no love. I was like, what am I doing this for? And yeah, that was the pivot moment for me. I never played team sports again after that moment, and discovered some other things, some individual sports that I had a real passion for that were part of the next series of things I did.
How do you extract the lessons that you had? Because your daughter is a high-level hockey player going through, I imagine.
She's actually following the same journey. It's actually really,
yeah.
She did really well, really young, has been part of the sort of New Zealand Under-21 program and the Under-18 program. But yeah, she's a different kid from me. And while she's a medical student, she's really committed to that. She's won medals in surf lifesaving at nationals. She's just one of these amazing kids. But I think what for her is more important is the community of people that she's part of, and I've learnt that with her. And I've tried to remove the pressure by saying, a few times she said to me, "Oh, I don't think I'll go and do those trials." I'm like, "Tell me who's in the teams, who are the girls that you might be playing with." And she reels all these names off. I go, "Oh, have you still got that WhatsApp group where you all connect?" She goes, "Oh, yeah, we connect all the time." I said, "Well, why not just go and treat it as a time of connection and to get away from study for a while and just be with your mates? I don't care if you don't make the under-21 team or whatever, just go and play." And so we had an incident like that last year. She went and played a tournament, got like MVP and the top goal scorer. Yeah. I said, "How's it?" "Oh, it's great. Yeah, I so loved it, And that was that. Well, I think that's the lesson for me. I guess I just put the pressure on myself. So I'm like, well, I don't want to be the dad that does that. And we have good conversations about that, her and I, about what do you want to be, and she knows. I want to be the best doctor, and hockey's just fun. That's my community. Surf's my community. That's my summer break. I love that. I can be a lifeguard on the beach, and I love that. And yeah, I guess that were the lessons for me.
Did that consciously impact the way you operated as a team manager, reflecting back on your personal experience and dealing with the athletes that you had alongside you?
I think what the All Black job gave me was, for the first time, I was sitting at the pinnacle and I was close to being what I thought I could be. Like, I never made it in hockey, and that bugged me, because two of the guys that were picked with me as 16-year-olds both played more than 250 times for New Zealand. So that's a bit of a missed opportunity.
Yeah.
And some of my time in Queensland, where I was trying to achieve some standards and different things that I was being involved in, I didn't quite get to the level I wanted. And so by the time I got to the All Blacks, I was like, I really want to make that. Like, I have to make this is an opportunity. I can't let this go, And that was a good and a bad driving force in some ways, because I probably overdid it, which had consequences. But I think just slowly but surely, I just started to build those layers of belief and value that I belonged there, that I could contribute something. I was very different from everybody else. I didn't come from rugby or any pedigree in rugby. I was almost the black sheep in some ways, because everyone else, they were all passionate about it. I couldn't, if you said to me, "Oh, do you want to go powder skiing today or be sitting on the bench for All Blacks?" I'd go powder skiing every day. Yeah, and that was different, but I didn't think that was wrong, because I knew when I was there, I'm going to give you everything I've got, and I'll come from a different perspective, and that might be good for us too.
I want to connect you to rugby, but before we get there, there's 12 years in the adventure tourism industry, and you worked very closely with AJ Hackett for a long time.
Another great name on the list of contacts.
Actually, AJ Hackett was in there too.
Unfortunately, I think is currently in Hong Kong on his way back to New Zealand tomorrow or something like that. But a great name.
Yeah, great human.
Yeah,
great New Zealander.
What did that 12 years in Queenstown adventure tourism, rafting guide, ski instructor,
Driving the bus?
Driving the
Driving
bus.
us, yeah. How did
up
this
Seafields,
link
yeah.
up to what you ended up being, and what did you learn from AJ?
I learned a lot in Queenstown because you're living and working in an environment that every day is different, and it's real. You know, we're taking people rafting down the Sharava or the Kawarau rivers, and it's in flood. Or actually, someone could die today, and actually, someone did die on a trip that I was on, and so it wasn't just shits and giggles. It wasn't a Disneyland fun ride that you fork out and pay you $100. It was real. And in those days, it was cowboy. It was all about, at that stage of Queenstown's life, shot over jet was probably the biggest tourist activity. No bungee, none of all the other stuff. Basically, Queenstown was rafting and shot over jet and skiing in the winter. That was it. And so we were doing 50,000 people a year rafting. Big numbers, 20 boats at a time, twice a day, going down the river. So, yeah, I learned a lot about myself. When things went wrong, I was at my best. It was just a calmness, like, oh, I've got this, I know what to do.
Your early 20s, right?
Yeah, early 20s.
That's
yeah.
a lot of responsibility. When you put it in those terms of life and death potentially,
Yeah, but
it's a lot of
it's not like that every day. But,
No, but-
there's risks, it's an open environment and things can change. But we were all like that. People, it wasn't remarkable because all the people of my age, we were all doing that. You know what I mean? Like that was what we did. On our weekends, we'd jump in a kayak and go and paddle a grade 4 river, and people were like, oh, you guys are great. No, that's just what we did because that was the environment that we were living in. I met AJ rafting, actually. I took him rafting one day and he told me about what he was contemplating. I think it was between the time when he jumped off the Eiffel Tower to sort of launch it. And then he said, I've got a consent to do it at the Kawarau Bridge. Oh, yeah, good luck. And then we used to float by it every day. Eventually with rafting, we had a season one year where a whole lot of rocks fell in the river, changed the rapids, and every day we had carnage. It was almost impossible to stop. And I'd, by that stage, become a senior guide, and I was running all the training programs for the company. So every October, myself and another guide maybe have 20 people who'd never done it before, and we'd try and turn them into guides in a month for the season. We finished this week of guiding, and we used to get paid by the trip in those days. No salary, just you turn up. If you work, you work. And we had a roster. And after this week of building the next workforce, my boss, who was a Swiss guy, tough guy, I got my pay packet and I only got paid 75% of the daily rate for this thing. I'm like, what's this about? He goes, oh, I gave you guaranteed work, so everyone else isn't working as hard. And I was like, I actually handed my jacket over. I said, I'm out, mate. I said, I don't need this. I said, the rest of the summer, I'm just going to drive the bus. Because also on the river, we'd brought to his attention the risks now, and we wanted more safety equipment. A few of us off our own back had gone and done courses with American guides who were working up in Canterbury to learn more about, in America, the firemen do a course called a Swiftwater Rescue Technician. So we went and did that, got it paid for it ourselves just because I'd started to get concerned. Like I actually became a paranoid guide. I didn't feel I could give people the best time because I was so worried about them, and what could happen, and the death that happened a year before, and that was just bad luck. But in that moment, when we tried to rescue that 21-year-old girl, the helicopter took an hour to arrive because the radios didn't work. We were rafting in June. It was like -8. There's ice on the river. We shouldn't have even been on the river. So it was just commercial, just get them down, get them out, get them home safe. And then I was like, this isn't for me. I went back to AJ, said, you know how we're sort of good mates. Have you got any jobs? He said, the only job I've got is you can drive the bus to the bridge. I went, okay, that'll do. I had my bus license. So I did that for about 2 weeks. Then I quickly started working on the bridge, and I became a jump master in about a week because I was very familiar with all of that equipment because it's ropes and pulleys, and we learned all that through Swiftwater Rescue. What I loved about AJ, I was there maybe 2 years in, so it started to become a bit more of a business. I mean, in the early days when I think for the first 6 weeks they had a school desk at the bridge, with the little inkwell and the lift up, and we had a cash bag. And so people paid, it went in the cash bag, and at the end of the day, AJ would walk down and pay the staff. What was left over, they went and drank at the pub.
Man, that is cowboy.
Yeah. But they didn't have a license for more than 6 weeks. After that, they got a 99-year consent from DOC, and it became a bit more of a business. So after 2 years, things went global really quickly, and he's off overshore building sites in Cairns and France and the UK. And he'd come home every now and then. His partner, Henry Van Ash, was running the business at the time. And if AJ came back, the first thing he'd organise is a party. And the next day we'd have a staff meeting. I said, why do you do the staff party first? He said, I just want to get everyone drunk, so then I find out what's going on. And he just wander around and have conversations. He's a very social man, not in a bad sense, but just he's a really good connector. He's such a warm person when you see him. Like you can't but feel warmth from him as a person. And then the next day he'd know all the issues, so we'd have a great meeting. Henry used to be the other way. He'd have a really tough meeting and then we'd party after. So they were chalk and cheese. They were very different people. But and AJ actually, I'd got to 10, 12 years. I think around 12 years I was at the point of, what's next? You know, I'm kind of sealing out here. What can I do? And he came to town and he said, do you want to have lunch? I said, yeah, sure. At that stage, I was working on the bridge, senior person, and he took me for lunch and he put a contract in front of me. He said, I want you to be the marketing manager, which was my first break in Queenstown. I'm going to go from a worker to a leader. I'd already decided, I hadn't told him, but I was going to go back to university and do a master's in business. And I'd gone through the entry criteria. I'd been accepted into Otago University, which was the only place you could do an MBA in those days. You had to go through an exam to get in. I passed it. And I decided that at the end of the summer of working at Bungie, I'd have one last ski season and then I'd go and start my university. And I told the guy in the ski shop that I used to work in part-time, I'll come and work full-time in the ski shop and then I can ski all day, I can teach, and I come back and work in the shop at night. And he said, you can run the ski hire for the winter. So I'm sitting there with AJ, he puts the contract in front of me. Out of the restaurant walks the owner of the ski shop. He goes, great to see you, Darren. AJ, yeah, so great. We got Darren working for us this winter. I'm like,
Oh, nice.
Then I got home. I rang the prof at the uni. I said, what should I do? He said, take the job. And so that was, it was quite a pivotal moment, and had 2 years kind of in that leadership role. I travelled a lot with Henry, promoting AJ Hackett globally. Him and I used to go to a lot of trade shows and travel shows as part of the Queenstown group selling New Zealand. And we used to have a roster. So I was 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. Henry was 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. I'd check in with him at 6 a.m. and he'd give me all his business cards. You need to talk to this person, that person, that person. And that's how we rolled. It was fun times. Yeah, special times.
So link us up to rugby. So how do you get into Canterbury and then into the All Blacks?
I literally just saw a job advertised for, I think, a sponsorship manager at Canterbury Rugby. Just put my name in the hat. I thought that my marketing and sales experience would help. I flew to Christchurch for an interview. I drank 3 Red Bulls because I was a real quiet guy. I thought, I've got to talk, Everyone says to you in an interview, you've got to be 80%, but it's got to be 80% you.
That is so good.
And I had an interview with Steve Chu and a guy called Warren Goddard, who was one of the early WG, founded the horses and the whole Crusader brand. And so I had an interview with those 2 guys, and that was the start. Arrived at Lancaster Park in those days. My starting day was the semi-final of Super Rugby in 1998. Crusaders were playing the Sharks. That was the first year they won the title. So it was a great time to start. I shared an office with Steve Hansen and Robbie Deans. So it was kind of, pinching yourself moments.
Baptism by fire.
But did you realise at the time that was quite a special organisation or dynasty that was in the infancy?
Not really, because I was a little bit removed. Because I was kind of more the commercial guy, the one the players didn't want to see, because I'm going to ask you to do this. I'll tell you this one story about Justin Marshall. I used to create these sheets, like a promo sheet. You've got this on. And I gave him this sheet to do something with Sky. I'm sitting in my office and the phone rings and it's Justin. Marshy here. He didn't sound too happy. I said, oh yeah, what's going on? He goes, I'm up in Auckland. I said, oh, okay, what for? He says, to do that Sky promo, but they told me it's not on today. I said, oh, have you got that sheet of paper there? I don't know how I managed to be so brave. And he said, yeah. I said, can you just read the date out? It was the wrong date. No, not mine. He'd gone the wrong day.
Yeah.
I said, well, why did you even get on the plane? Like, he doesn't even have flights booked. So I just paid. It was a real pivotal moment for him and I. He became a person I really had a lot of trust in. Often talk about that era. So if I can talk to you about 3 people, Mertz, Marshy and Toddy, right? Now, Mertz, public, loved him. Like, he was a superstar. But inside the team, he was hard work. Like, Mertz was really up and down, and he was a rock star. Like, he was the man, and in those early days, he had media chase him. He'd avoid doing it. And
Did you get the personal Lone Star sponsorship for him?
No, I think he drank his way into that one. And so I had him. And then, like Marshy, everyone criticised him for the hair and the sulking, but inside the team, he was a epitome of the team, man. He had his own bar. I think the Grumpy Mole would always welcome us there. I remember getting invited to his house every time the Bluff Oyster season was on. He'd have crates of it there, and he'd bring the whole team in. He played for the team, like he didn't play for himself. He was very much a team-oriented player. And then you had Toddy, who was always Toddy. He wasn't what you saw and what I saw was the same. It would be the same Toddy. It was quite it was a really interesting period. And I look back at the people of that time. They're all involved in the game.
Yeah,
all of them, players, coaches. Not that period. What do they say? Auckland rugby, if it's not strong, New Zealand rugby is not strong. Well, that was a dynasty that started, around that period of people, and it was remarkable. I was very lucky actually to be around those people early, and sitting with them, and I didn't know anything else.
No.
That was my first experience of rugby, and it was that. It's like, wow, it could have been anywhere else.
And it is a step up again, because the next step is All Blacks manager. So what was the time period at Canterbury, and then when did you become aware of the job, and did you have questions about applying, and how did it all play out?
And even switching from commercial to team management is a step in itself.
Well, I was 6 months into it, and Robbie just said to me one day, "Do you want to be the manager of the Canterbury NPC team?" And I was like, "Wow, I've never done that before." and that was the start. And in 2000, Smithy was the All Black coach, and Smithy got appointed All Black coach in 2000. Robbie at that stage was the Crusaders manager. So Robbie became the Crusaders coach with Steve Hansen, and there was just a gap for the Crusaders manager, and I'd just done the NPC. So, all right, now you're the Crusaders manager. We won the championship in 2000, this amazing game in Canberra in the snow. And we won by very close with Gregan and Larkham and all of those guys. But greatest team talk I've ever seen from Robbie Deans, because there was a storm coming, like a major snowstorm. We had this little meeting room. This was the days of faxes. And I decorated the room with every fax that we'd been. It covered the entire room. Like, it was just overwhelming support. And we're going for our third. We'd won in 98 and 99. And Robbie walked into the traditional pre-game meeting and said, "Boys, I can feel a storm coming. And it ain't the weather."
That was it.
That was it. Walked out. We won that. So you had 5 years there doing both roles. During that time, I did a tour with the New Zealand A team with Robbie and Steve to Wales, France, and Romania. And so it was my first sort of overseas gig and get a bit of a feel for things. Romania, wow, what a fascinating experience that was.
I bet.
We stayed in this castle. And I think like the lira, I think is their currency. And the boys were playing cricket in this castle, and they kept breaking windows. And I'd take down like $1 million lira, it's like $1 Kiwi, to fix the window. And do you remember Orini IE? Yeah. So he was music committee, and we arrived late at night into Bucharest. We drove out from this castle to out onto the road to go to training, and the light had come up, and in Romania, there's people called dog walkers. So people give all their dogs to these dog walkers, and as literally we walked out, the whole street was just dogs. Arini puts the first song on. Yeah, you imagine what it was? So yeah, interesting moments. Around 2003, the Colonel was the All Black manager.
Was he also known as Captain Cuddles?
Yeah, Colonel Cuddles.
Yeah.
I learned never to cuddle players. We had Noel Maxwell in the team, and like Maxie played with high adrenaline, like he was red mist, eh? And Poss said to me, when Maxie comes off, don't go near him. Like if he sits next to you on the bench, move away, because he will still be angry for quite a while. So I was like, oh yeah, I don't ever cuddle, And I remember watching the Colonel do his first game and trying to cuddle Maxie when he came off. I was like, oh, good luck, bro. But the Colonel was a good man.
Was he head of the SAS or something crazy like that?
He was head of the SAS, yeah. And he was probably ahead of his time because he tried to, and you got to remember in that period we had players who had come from the amateur era and trying to be professional. So there was still that transition going on. And I think he came in with a lot of military ideals, you got to shave and put your hair this way, and he just got the middle finger, But he cared, he really cared, and he was a good foil for Smithy because Smithy brings a lot of intensity, and I think the Colonel took a lot of that, removed a lot of that so Smithy could be at his best in coach. But maybe it was just a bit early for him, and him and Mitch just didn't work. So I remember Robbie came out to me in 2003 saying, we're going to, the Colonel's going to finish, and can you do the World Cup in 2003? And I was like, am I ready for this? I said to Robbie, well, you're my head coach here, and I know you well, and I trust you, but you're not the All Black head coach, so I need to know what Mitch is going to be like, because in the end, he's going to be making the calls. So Mitch came down one day, and I just sat with him, and we talked, and when he left, I was like, this doesn't feel right for me. At the same time, my wife and I were going for a very difficult journey to have kids, really, really challenging. And it took us 6 years to have our first one. So it was, and we're not together now, but I have so much respect for what she managed through that time with me not being there. So I kind of used that as the excuse not to do the All Blacks. Anyway, the next year, Jock Hobbs decided that they needed to change the manager's role. So they created this new role, which we talked about earlier. And so I looked at it and thought, maybe this is my time. I think Graham had already been appointed. So I thought, I just want to be sure that this is the right time. So there was a lot of comment in the media about this new role and who the candidates, should be. I certainly wasn't on the shortlist. Sean Fitzpatrick was, Andy Dalton, Andy Hayden. So I rang the interview panel in December. Said, okay, I see the job. I'm interested. Can you tell me, what are you looking for? What are the qualities you want? Because I don't want to waste your time or my time. So they told me what they were looking for. So I made the shortlist, and I finished my third interview. So I did 4. The last one was with the board. Finished my third, and I'd presented my first 100 days as All Black manager, what I'd do. It had gone well. And I looked at each of them, things sort of slowed down. I could sense the chair of the group was going to wind things up, and he said, sorry, Darren, I just want to bring to your attention, and I want to apologise on behalf of us as the interview panel, that today it was leaked in the paper who the other candidates are, and I'd seen it in the paper. And it was Andy Hayden and Andy Dalton. And I thought in that was a little moment where I knew I had to show that I had the strength inside of me to deal with tough situations, and that I could be brave and I could be courageous. So I said to him, okay, gentlemen, do you remember when I called you back in December? I looked at each of them. There was just 3 of them. And you told me what you were looking for was someone with experience that looked at the big picture, understood it, had worked in a professional sports team before. Now, both Andys hadn't worked in sports. They had senior roles in business and so forth, but not in sport. So I said, well, I guess I've got the job now, because I'm the only one of the 3 that has. Like the sweat is absolutely pour. It's like Niagara Falls down my back.
That'll be the 6 Red Bulls that you had beforehand to get yourself up for the...
And there was just this, when people, you see their little thing drop here, like, oh gosh, what have I done? And there was just silence. I said, well, I guess we're done for today. And I just got up and walked out.
Big move.
And I sat at reception of this hotel in Wellington, and one of the panelists was DJ Graham, the great DJ Graham. Very black and white man, amazing guy. He walked past me in the reception and he went, gave me a wink.
Okay.
And I got the call a bit later. Yeah, you've got the job. So yeah, it's quite an amazing start.
And then you meet Sir Graham?
Sir Graham, yeah. We met in a cafe in Christchurch, didn't know each other.
To work out the details. To work out, I think the term is You do all the other shit.
Yeah, that's me. Yeah, you do everything else. I'll just coach. And I said, oh, how about we do that together? He goes, yeah, that'd be good. The other thing on that day that he said to me, which has always stuck with me and around his leadership was, he said, I'm going to employ Steve and Wayne. I said, oh, that's awesome. He goes, yeah, because they're better than me. I was like, wow, there's not many people in sport and probably even in industry that are prepared to do that. And it took a while for all that all to sort of seamlessly connect, but in hindsight, made him a better coach. And we had 3 head coaches working side by side. And probably in today when I look back at sport, and I know maybe it's something we talk to later, but I really worry about that coaches think I've got to just bring people that I know, or they use trust lightly, I think, because it's actually more about control. And I look back at that era and go, that was pretty special how he did that. I mean, Steve bought Fozzie and he'd never coached with him. That probably made him a better coach. Fozzie bought Joe Schmidt in.
Yeah.
Yes, there was circumstances surrounding that, but he still had to ask him and sell the vision for Joe to come in and do it, because Joe's reasonably picky too, and he comes from the right place. So it's really important in leadership. I think it's vital.
Just to timestamp, when you get the All Blacks manager job, what's that like with friends and family? Like you're saying, hey guys, I got a new job. I'm the All Blacks manager.
General manager.
Yeah.
It's hard to recall. I mean, yeah, Dad was just like beside himself. I think everyone in my family were. And Jan, my wife at the time, was extremely proud, and she was a huge part of helping me prepare for that. Actually, I actually got someone in to help me prepare for it, an external person, a guy called Kevin Sims, who works in the presentation side of things. And between him and Jan, they just grilled me, like getting me right for interviews and setting me up to do well at that. To me, it was just the next step, and like, okay, where do I start? What do I do? I remember going to Wellington for the first time and sitting down with the executive team, Steve Chu, Deputy CEO, Chris Moller, CEO, and Therese Walsh. Oh, lady, is she a dame? Dame Therese, yeah. I'm like, out of my depth here.
Yeah.
You know?
Were there a lot of moments in that early stage where you did feel out of your depth?
Yeah, we were a startup. We had nothing, zero, and so I'm kind of bringing my Crusader lens. Ted's bringing his Blues lens. He's wanting all the Blues guys because that's all he knows. We've got Steve and Wayne and me, and we're all trying to bring the Canterbury guys. It was challenging. We didn't get it right the first year. We had a pretty mixed first year. We kind of got it right towards the end of that first year in terms of reshaping the way the All Blacks should be. But the experience mid-year in South Africa in 2004 really was a wake-up call for all of us around where we were at as a team.
This is the famous kind of crossroads period, isn't it?
Yeah.
Where I think as a group you decide enough's enough. We've got to change the team culture.
Yeah, and in fact, for most players, they enjoyed playing Super Rugby more than the All Blacks. So we're like, well, that's bad enough as a starting point. And 2, there was no real expectation of what it meant to be in this team. It was just, there was an entitled sort of approach, I think, from a lot of players, and so some of that meant culling some players and giving other younger players an opportunity. Tana and probably Anton Oliver were the 2 from the old who stayed, who I think had the right qualities to help, were very instrumental early on in guiding us. And then you obviously had people like Richie and Dan in their formative days that really got the opportunity to lead then. And it was a great time to be involved. You got people like Sir Brian Lahore floating around as well. It's constant pinch you moments, that you're actually working with these people, but and then you got to deliver, and I just got on with it. That's sort of who I am. Don't get sort of too caught in the stuff outside of me and how people feel about it. I'm just like, I've got to do this. Like, that's what I'm here for.
It is such an interesting role as manager, and I'm sure we'll get into the detail, but you're not the coach, you're not the captain, but you are responsible for leading this group of 50 plus around the country, around the world as well.
Yeah. I think we just, I don't know if it was luck or just a group of people that were philosophically all on the same page around where we needed to go, and that we found a way to work together. So if you think in those days, Steve, Wayne, Graham, Gilbert, myself, and Sir Brian, we just found a way, and we knew we had to do it differently, and we had the courage to try. We had a lot of talent. We always have a lot of talent here, but it just needed to be done differently, and away we went. And we all stood on each other's toes from time to time, but we always were committed, I think, to the greater cause. Even though that was, as I say to you, there were a lot of meetings I walked out of like beaten up, but as long as I could reconcile that it was for the greater, then I was fine with that.
We're inside the 20 years in the All Blacks now, so there's so much to cover. I say uniquely placed a lot, but you are. So I'm keen to talk about a few specific tournaments and some coaches and some players. But to start with 2007, the Rugby World Cup quarterfinal loss to France, the country was just horrified at this. Yeah. And you're on the inside, and then you're coming home. Yeah. What do you remember about that? What did you do wrong? What would you do differently?
We were complacent in so many ways. It was our first experience of a World Cup, but we decided to treat it no differently from playing test match rugby series. So we didn't even realise that if you look back in history, there's always an upset in a World Cup. Some team will always turn up and play better. Hadn't even factored that in. We beat the French by 50 2 months prior. They turn up on that day, they're dressed in the tricolour flag, they march forward to us on the haka. We're wearing that horrible grey jersey that I signed off.
There you go.
Oh, it's good.
So you're responsible.
It's
good.
We spent a period of time in the south of France. We had a bit of a gap, and I remember planning for the tournament. We think, how are we going to make sure these 3 days doesn't get out of hand? Because we just we weren't sure. We hadn't built enough trust in the group. And we were really worried actually about the Pacific boys, what they would do. And so I think particularly with Mills and Kevy, we kind of got them to convince the boys they should stay. We were in Aix-en-Provence in south of France, near to Marseille, that they should stay. We're staying in this lovely little chateau, so they should stay there and have a Pacific party for 3 days, and Ted and I would stay back and sort of keep an eye on things. And they were great. Then our other boys went rogue. Some boys went to Monaco and all over the place. So by the time I was just like, are we really on here? I remember Carl Heyman one day running through a media conference dressed up like Batman.
Cowboy.
Yeah, and we just weren't quite there. I think we went into that into that quarterfinal. We're in okay sort of form. We'd not had very tough games in the lead up. I think Scotland was our toughest, and that was still 40 points. But I think on that day, my reflections were we lost Carter and Nick Evans, I think, both with injuries. So we ended up with Luke McAllister at 10. Like, Richie didn't trust Luke. That's why we just picked and go. I remember talking to Richie about it afterwards, and a little story about Jerry Collins, God bless the man, but Jerry used to train like Jane and play like Tarzan. And so that had an impact on the team because the boys weren't sure they could trust him, like especially in lineouts, because he would never catch them at training. So we didn't throw any lineouts to the 15 because we weren't sure whether he'd catch them. So we just went round the front, and the French had us worked out and just stopped us. So yeah, we just weren't ready. We didn't have the ideas. Richie didn't have the skills to deal with it. That wasn't his fault. That was our fault because we hadn't built the toolkit for him and for all the others. Actually, our leadership group didn't really function under pressure. A lot of our leaders didn't play. They were in the stand. So there was a whole lot of things. We were probably a bit cute coaching-wise. There was plan A, plan B, and we introduced plan B for that game, and we weren't ready for it, and just so many things.
Did you think you'd lost your job?
No, I was fine.
Right.
Because I was on a different setup to the coaches.
Okay.
Yeah, so I got called back to Wellington, and I had to interview Graham to continue his job. So I went to the board meeting, sat through the interviews with him and with Robbie. Then got called back to the board, only time to share my recommendation. So that was heavy. Yeah, because obviously I had a relationship with Robbie from the Crusaders, and I'd just spent 4 years with Graham. So that was fascinating.
So what is your input there?
The board just said, well, you've heard the interviews. Who do you think we should pick?
Yeah.
What's your recommendation?
Wow.
You're the GM. So it was, yeah. So obviously I chose Graham, and probably mostly because I felt I felt we'd lost one game in a 4-year period where we'd been actually very, very dominant.
Is that weird? Sorry, is that weird for you? The sort of short time in rugby, and then you are deciding.
Well, the board's deciding. They're just
but-
asking my recommendation.
But you're a very important voice, and
But that's the role they asked me to do. That's what I was there to do. And also there was other people around the board table that would have had opinions as well. I think they just valued mine. I'd lived it for 4 years and I'd been close to it. So, and on paper, that's what that role demanded.
Yeah.
And that was the seat I held. So I just had to, again, be yourself, say what you think, and leave better people to decide.
You mentioned Richie there. I'm keen to pull us through to 2011. So he wasn't ready as a leader in 2007, but he certainly was in 2011. What did you see from, tell us about Richie and what you see behind the scenes and what makes him special and leading into that home World Cup?
One big lesson he learned from that is you can't do it on your own. So the work that, and particularly people like Kerry Evans and Gilbert, the influence they had in building a leadership team, it actually could make a difference on field versus just understanding what leadership was a big transference between 7 and 11. And I heard Rito talking about that moment, 5 minutes from the end, where I guess not the senior leaders, but some other leaders had to make a critical decision. Now, that's a great reflection of Richie as much as it is of Rito and the other boys that made that decision, because we'd built that capacity and that trust through all sorts of structures and ways that we worked. I think what Richie also did was he realised you've got to improve your craft, not only physically, but also for him in another space. And he sought people out that would help him with that. And he was deliberate with that, like incredibly deliberate and consistent with learning in that space as much as he was about improving his ability to pass and tackle and jackal and all those things. And so I think that became when others saw him doing that, I think our other leaders really jumped onto that bandwagon too. Like, it's not just turning up for this meeting once a week and I'm called a leader. It's actually, I've got it. This is a skill. I've got to learn it more and I've got to trial it and I need help. I need to ask people to help me with it. And one of the influences I think a lot about was when you look at our loose forward trio in that tournament, McCaw, Kaino and Reid. Rito and Richie, it's obviously smart, intelligent. Jerome's just a physical specimen, plays on instinct, but him being part of that group and them all helping each other, lead each other better, that was massively instrumental. I mean, I think in both finals, he was unlucky to be the player of the tournament. He was that good. So I think that's where he learned. Like, he got quite isolated at times, Richie. He had, interesting, I often reflect on that. Probably his two best mates were like the most diverse people you could think of, Andrew Hoare and Ali Williams, not people he spent a lot of time with. Yeah. And I'm like, wow, where did that come from, I mean, he's a farmer, so I kind of get that from the Hoare side. But Ali, yeah, I couldn't quite work that one out. But he was, I just loved that he was prepared to step forward, like he would always step into things. Yeah, quite often on a Friday, Ma Nonu used to come to my room and go, hey, bro, let's go and have a coffee. And so we'd go and have a tea, because he didn't want me to work too hard. He loved me, so he'd take me away for a coffee.
Is that why he downtrod you so much as well on tours?
No, he did. He just did that to everyone. He was a pest. He took me away and we'd talk about stuff and what he was feeling in the team and how the Brown brothers were rolling and stuff. So we'd go to these leadership meetings and often there'd be a question, and Richie would speak first, and then I'd watch the others speak, and it was repeat what Richie said. And I was like, I remember saying to Bert one day, I'm not sure we're getting it right, because I said, Ma comes and speaks to me and tells me all the other things, but he never speaks in the meeting. And so Bert went and had a chat with Richie and try to get him to understand it. Like, so often as a leader, we need to be summative, that we need to sit there and listen and then capture the feelings of the group. And one of the great skills, I think, in listening is to say, this is what I heard. Did I get it right? And that's what he became a champion at. And so you just create so much belief in the rest of the group because, one, they all feel heard. And so Gilbert was fantastic at creating environments where we could have those conversations. Everyone was heard, and we changed the way we did things. People sat together, had a little conversation. We told Richie, you just make sure you speak last because we're going to leave you to last and we'll go around these guys. You hear all their ideas. And it was those sort of little things really made massive difference. And I mean, I think within one campaign, we didn't need to do it that way because the boys found their voice and found their confidence and Richie started to understand I need to be more reflective and provide that certainty. And Gilbert was an artist at creating meetings that worked, so that Richie would always wrap it every time. And it was special to be part. I learned so much just from being in that, that I can now pass on to others and share around how to grow, how to get better, how to lead.
Into the weeds of 2011 Home World Cup, there's obviously so much tension and pressure, and it's on our doorstep and all that sort of stuff. Are you planning the celebrations afterwards? Like, are you thinking, okay, when we win, this is going to happen? Is there a timeline for what happens after they win, and is that your responsibility?
Yeah, I am. Yeah, so I've got people at New Zealand Rugby talking to councils and police and all of that, and I'm just trying to keep it away from everybody.
Yeah,
and like they come to the hotel, over here, come on, around the back room. There's a little bit of that, yeah, and. Like I think as the manager, you're living today, but you're thinking tomorrow all the time, and because it's fast, and you got to be ready. Like I always said to, I remember Steve used to say to me, "Have you got anything to say to the team today?" I go, "Well, how are we rolling, Steve?" He goes, "Oh, we're slick." I said, "Okay, well, no need for me to talk then," and that was a win for me. I was like, "That's leadership. I've got it. My crew, and we're nailing it. Let's roll on. I don't need to get in front of everybody for the hell of it. If there's something wrong, I'll get up and say it, but otherwise, no." So that's where I sort of sat on it. Yeah.
How quickly after kickoff are you thinking about pack out and get back to the hotel? Are you starting to think all those steps ahead?
In the game, I was pretty connected.
Yeah.
But I think what I learned too was, like Richie, I can't do it all. So I built my team, built the capability. Operationally. In the end, I'm literally saying this is a hotel where we're going to stay in. These are the flight times that we probably should take in conjunction with the athletic performance side. Away you go, team, get it sorted, And we built a system where what I wanted hotels and all the people that we deal with was to say, you guys are the slickest ever. Like when you arrive, it's so easy for us. And so we built that over time so that one of my great memories was at the World Cup in 2019 in Japan. We stayed in the same hotel for 6 weeks. Amazing hotel, a Conrad in the middle of Japan. And we finished third at that tournament, so we had to wait 3 days to fly home. So manager's nightmare. You got 3 days off, boys, in Tokyo. We're on the bus on Tuesday. The day before the bronze medal playoff match, I'm at reception, and the lady I'm dealing with there, she goes, "Oh, when do you leave, Shandy-san?"
That's a lot of risky accent. But you pulled it off. You pulled it off.
And, I said, "No, we're leaving." She said, "I think you're leaving Saturday." I said, No, we have to leave Tuesday now." She goes, "Oh, because I was going to catch a train from 3 hours away to come to say goodbye." And I was like, wow, how amazing. And we became family inside that place. So we finished that match, right? And I'd heard that the whole staff were going to say goodbye to us when we left. The whole staff of this hotel, 300-room hotel, massive. And in Japan, that means all the staff out on the forecourt bowing as the bus leaves.
Holy shit.
Well, for me, that's gold medal, That's amazing. So we finished that match, and Steve goes, "You got anything to say, son?" I said, "Yeah, actually, I will today." I said, "Boys," I told them the story. I said, "So when we leave on Tuesday, I want that to happen. It's on you. Don't destroy all the goodwill we've built here over 6 weeks." And I was talking to Ali Williams about it. He asked me, "What was that ratio thing you used to say?" I said, "If you do something good in the All Blacks, someone will tell 4 people. If you do something bad, they'll tell 11. And that was a 4-11 moment, And Tuesday, all the staff out there bowing as we left the hotel. So those were the moments that I wanted to create. That's how I wanted us to be remembered, that we were slick, we're pro, we respected everybody around wherever we were, whether it was a hotel or on a plane or, early on we used to sit on the plane until everyone else got off. We'd walk off last. So lots of those sorts of things, I think, they say a lot. Sweeping the sheds, it's a classic, isn't it? I love walking out past the opposition's changing room and looking at it. It's just a pigsty. They're walking out looking like a shambles. We're walking out pristine change room, all in our suits. It might be 35 degrees and Brodie Retallick's looking at me like, why do I have to wear the suit? but we're the All Blacks. That's what we do. That's what we stand for.
If 2011 was sort of Richie, 2015 might be Dan Carter, performing under pressure, just stepping up in the twilight of his career. What did you see with Dan? What don't we know about what Dan did, or what were your insights?
Well, he was literally, his body was hanging on, so the tape kept him together. I think his resilience, the noise around him and whether he should be there or not was very loud, and he didn't help that in the pool phase because he didn't play that well. The one thing again, I'm not a tactical person, the one thing I noted about Dan when he was ready was where he stood on the field in terms of, did he stand in a position where I'm going to attack the line here, or where I'm going to be the 10 that shovels it out? And we got to that quarterfinal and he stood flat. So, ready to play, son. He just loved the spotlight. Like he'd got to that point of his career where I just want the big lights now. Like, can we just forget the pool phase? Just give me a quarterfinal against France back at Millennium Stadium where we could kill the demons of 07, and it was as simple as that. One of the things I talk a lot to people about is, what was the mission of our team? And our mission from our side as a staff was to build self-reliance in our athletes so they could make the best decisions under pressure. So every decision that we're trying to make around the environment is, like, how do we keep building self-reliance here? How do we not do everything for the players? Because by us doing that, we're taking away what we actually need them to be. And I don't know if you recall that match. We were up 21-3. Ben Smith got a yellow card. Australia came straight back, scored 2 tries, like bang, bang. 11 minutes to go, 21-17 up. All the momentum with them. We go to halfway, kick-off, turnover, Carter, drop goal. Self-reliant, decision-making under pressure. Kicked 3 in his whole career.
Yeah.
One the week before and one in that game. But every training he'd be shanking them all over the place. But he'd be practicing them all the time, And I think that was Carter. He was just the master craftsman, and was his time. And he you think of the times that he missed, like he missed 11 and he missed 7, and when he was, probably in 7, that was really when he was the man. He was carving on the back of that 05 Lions thing. He was really at his peak and pulled the calf in the quarter, and then we all know what happened in Wellington in 11. So it was great for him to get that opportunity, and he was so loved, in the team. Like he brought a lot of other things to the group. He was great socially. Like he was a president of the club rooms. He couldn't have a better president. He just brought the energy because he loved. For him, that meant everything. The bear in the change room was Dan. He just loved that. That was, and there was a lot of boys like that. Conrad, Richie, Rito. That meant everything. So that was massive for the group, really.
Well, thanks for giving us all their numbers, because we'll get to hear all their stories from them firsthand. So what I was thinking is
I was trying to cover them all now, so you've got nothing left. So.
what I was thinking is you're telling these stories is like, what a privilege to have a front row seat to all of these incredible moments, and we're sort of just scratching the surface.
Can I share one other 15 story there?
Please.
It nearly sits alongside my match sheet stuff up. Okay. I don't think this one ever went public. So for the semi-final, before the warm-up, I normally go and get 2 of the match balls and I take them into the shed and just get Dan to feel them. Do they feel, are these guys not duking us with the pressure or whatever? Because pressure makes a big difference for the kicker. So on this particular day, I go to one of the World Rugby officials, can I have the 2 balls? I walk into the changing room, Dan has a quick look, I walk back out, and he's like, he takes them away and he comes back to me and goes, you adjusted the pressure. You're cheating. I'm like, sorry? And this was around the time when Tom Brady got accused of Deflategate. Yeah.
Oh, the World Rugby official has accused you of...
Accused me of,
oh, okay.
Yeah. And I'm like, bro, you're kidding yourself. I've just talked and I gave him to Dan and I brought him out. Nah, I'm going to report this to the match manager. Monday, I get a letter from World Rugby accusing me of ball tampering. Inflategate, number 2.
Wow. What's going on there? What's the motivation?
I don't know. I said to him, look, mate, I went from 22 degrees in the tunnel to 5 degrees in the change room. Like, pressure can change with temperature, And I certainly didn't do anything like that. I was so angry. I got my lawyer, and we had a lawyer with us. I You got to write back this. I refute this, 100%. At the final, he's standing at the door with the 2 balls again. I said, "Can I have the 2 balls?" He goes, "Yeah, you're not allowed in the changing room." It was ridiculous. Woke gone wrong. But it was a funny little byline for that week of the final. Trying to deal with your reputation being solid. I was like, wow, like really, and just that's people feel tension in different ways. I wasn't angry at him, but it was a kind of weird moment. At a pinnacle, took a little bit of the shine away, for me.
When it's the eve of a big game like that, are you mentally preparing for what the final whistle will be if the result doesn't go your way? And how you as the manager, one of the leadership team, has to get around the group to keep things moving?
I actually find in losses, you're best to stay away. There's nothing to say that's meaningful. The best thing you can probably do is give a guy a hug. That's about it, and say nothing. In 23, at the World Cup, when Sam's sitting beside me, yellow carded, and I hear on the radio, it's going to be a red. It's a red, mate. What more can you say? You just got to sit in the mud sometimes with them, and that's all you can do.
Alongside them.
Yeah. There's not much more, and often I found myself just getting busy when it was like that. We've still got stuff to do. Let's just try and get past this point, and there'll be other times that we're going to reflect on this. Now it's just all too hard. Just get going.
I had an idea. You have worked incredibly closely with 5 of New Zealand's greatest coaches ever, probably the best 5. Could I say their name, and could you summarise their coaching style, or what made them special, or what made them different? Maybe sort of 90 seconds to 2 minutes for each of them. And I want to just sort of see how they compare and differ. So we'll start with Sir Graham Henry.
Cheeky grin, Merlot lover. Had speaking idiosyncrasies that just captured us all. Sometimes humorously, but a lot of times right on the money. Really driven to break the hoodoo that had sat with New Zealand rugby for so long.
Robbie Deans.
Robbie, it's simple. As Robbie built an environment that allowed everyone to, I think, be themselves. Built an environment that really connected us with the region that we were part of. He created what we called the Crusader man, and we built some things that have lasted forever, like the sword became a symbol of who we were, and he was right behind it. He was the first coach that I worked with that I could see off-field mattered as much as on-field.
So Steve Hansen?
Intuitive, and remarkably intuitive. One day he's the bulldog, the next day he's the kitten that you're patting the tummy. Care, high care. Challenged me more than anyone ever has in my career, personally. Both good and bad.
Dream future guest, to get Sir Steve on. Sir Wayne Smith?
Diligence beyond the word. An incredibly hard worker. He bleeds black. He was so at times it overwhelmed him. Israel and CJ stuffed up in 11. That really impacted Smithy, and I was like, "Hey mate, I've got this. It's fine. It's not the end of the world." But again, a tautara kauri of our history, really, just what he brought, and I think a tremendous assistant coach. Like he really found his place there amongst other great men, because he could be more of himself without the pressure really impacting him.
And last one, Ian Foster.
Yeah, again, a bit like Steve. Steve too, but was a different man. But was still, I saw a lot of Steve in the way Fozzie coached. But there was a real deepness to Foz, a real spirituality. Steve had the intuitiveness, Foz had the spirituality, and a really good breeder of people. And whereas Steve, I got a bit bruised, Foz, I felt it was a conversation with a really good meaning, and I always would work away with something that meant something, that helped me. So I remember he challenged me one day when things were really tough for him, and I get, managers, they get caught in the task, Samus, just got so much to do.
I'm glad you're putting me in the same camp as an All Blacks manager. I'll just say that.
We're all managers, And and so he said to me one day, when we talk, can we start with you and I before we start with the tasks? I was like, yeah, let's connect. He says, because I love talking to you about how I'm feeling. Oh, okay. Yeah, right. So he was good like that.
Going to get to the end soon, but before that, I want to talk about some of the characters along the way. And one I really want to chat about with Kevin Mialamu, because you saw such an evolution of that man across your 20 years, right? So can you tell us about Kevy and what made him special?
So we talked about that 2000 trip to Romania. So Kevy was on that trip, 18-year-old hooker. I don't think he spoke the whole time we were away. It's just this quiet little man. And there's this paradox with Kevy that he played with such aggression and determination, and yet off the field, he's probably the loveliest human I've ever met. There's a softness about him that just draws you in, watching him in that leadership group. I think he felt an imposter, but seeing him at the end, and I'm sure some of you shared the story where he called out Steve when he turned up for a meeting late.
Yeah, can you tell us the story?
Well, we had a few non-negotiables in the All Black, not too many, but one of them was time. No one could be late. I think we used to live by, if you're 5 minutes early, you're late. First week of an All Black tour, the young guys would be on the bus like half an hour before because they didn't want to be late. So we had a meeting first day in London before the 2015 World Cup, and we had a World Rugby official coming in to talk to us about the things that we needed to hear. So I'm running the meeting. It's 9 o'clock. 49 out of 50 are in the room. All right, I'm going to start, and my staff are like, Steve's not here. I said, I know, but it's 9 o'clock. We start at 9. So I started the meeting. He walked in, I don't know, he might say 30 seconds. I reckon it was 10 minutes. And Kevy's sitting next to me. And he goes, I need to say something. I'm like, we've got a guest, you can't. No. He said, I am. So he stood up and, Steve, this ain't good enough. In this team, we're all on time. 49 of us made it on time. Why weren't you? And I don't need you to reply to that. Sit down. Let's get the meeting on. Something along those lines.
Yeah.
And in hindsight, it was probably one of the best. We'd gone into that favourites, and it was it's a special moment when you think about what happened further. Like it gave him a bit of a kick in the backside, and he coached magnificently, through that. And he one of these great saying in leadership: be aware of the shadow that you cast. And Steve was great at that. He knew himself, and he could look in the mirror and go, hey, I got that wrong. There's another great example of him in that where I remember he came into a meeting one day, and I talk often about what's the temperature in the room. And I think it was after a loss, so you could feel the temperature wasn't high. Like the boys were pretty cold. But Steve's coming in like boiling hot, like the kettle's just boiled. So you know how that meeting's going to go. Yeah. He walked down and go, hey, you reckon that went on? Well, I don't know if you really had much impact. The next day, standing at the door before the next meeting on the Tuesday, he walks up and goes, before the meeting, what's the temperature in the room today? Self, understand self, and realises the shadow that he can cast, and the charisma, the mana that he carried into the room mattered, and he needed to match what was there.
Talk about charisma and mana. One of the guys that we've had on recently that cast a shadow like that was Liam Messam, who almost to a man, everyone talks about what a great team man he was. Yeah. You had a front row seat again for his character and his characteristics. What can you tell us about Mess?
He lived in the shadow of Kaino, so it's a big shadow. He just such a driven individual. We had one of our principles was that everyone has to prepare to play. So back in that 04 period, there used to be the days of the dirty dirties, and literally it was like a free pass to drink beer for the week. We thought, well, this ain't good, because what if a player gets injured in the warm-up and that guy's basically had a Barbarians week rather than an All Black week. So we changed it, and we created this thing, we called them the backbone. These are the backboners, and I think just through selection he didn't often get to play, so he kind of self-imposed himself as the captain of the backboners, and we created a meaningful role for them in that they became the opposition. And so he just took that super seriously. And their test match was every Thursday when we ran everything under full intensity like a test, and that was their opportunity to shine. And he just led that. He kept smashing PBs all week in the gym. He took a real ownership of our Te Ao Māori work and haka and owning that. And yeah, he just the epitome of the we over the me. You know, he knew that the me serves the we, but the we strengthens me, and he's the best example I know. And how great in 23 we picked 5 legends to come and spend time with the team. He was one of them because he'd never played a World Cup. He'd played 5 minutes. He got injured at the island, and we picked Kevy because he was half his tests off the bench. We picked Conrad because he was not really a great athlete, but he got everything out of himself that he could, and he was incredibly smart. We picked DC because he loved the spotlight, and we picked Richie because he's a goat. So, and that 5, and they all got great. They all tell the story of what it means to be an All Black in different ways. And yeah, you tip your hat to them. You go to a World Cup and you play. I don't know how many minutes you play, but it wasn't many.
Our title sponsor is One New Zealand, and we always like to ask our guests a question about connection. I feel like this is a pretty good time to insert it here, because what you're talking about with guys like Liam is building culture and getting people together. And I think certainly when we were growing up and in those early days, it was around booze, right? You go and had to have a big night out and everyone would sort of develop these team bonds. But what are the best ways to decompress that you've seen, and what are they doing now? And how has that changed over time?
Well, I think in terms of building a culture, there's got to be something that inspires people rather than motivates people. If I want to motivate you, I get some sticks and a light of fire under your bum to get you going. If I inspire you, I light the fire inside you. And so we had to build that first. Like, what's it really mean to be here? What is the story you will tell when you leave here? And what will they say about your time here? That taking it away from them, but making it bigger than them. And that became the driver in the end, and that built the connection. And so what I also learned is that if your leaders can live that all the time, their influence is so massive. You know, you walk in to training and you see Richie McCaw on the field first every day, and you're Sam Kane, you're like, oh gosh, I got a bit of work to do here. You know, do you think I can beat Richie out of the changing room? You never did. But that's so powerful. Says nothing, but it's an action, you know. And strategy is not built in a document; it's built in action. You know, it's built in behaviours. And that's what drove the culture, was the behaviour of everybody. Like, there was no, like, the standard around time, don't matter if it's Steve Hansen late, position doesn't matter. That was our standard, you know, and we weren't ever prepared to walk past it. So that connection piece became really important. I think in terms of your decompression question, I don't think we ever answered that. It's really hard to get off the wheel, and when society deem the way we do it is for a bottle. And I don't think we ever answered that. But I think that in the end, the culture allowed us to do that better than what we used to. One of the great gifts Steve Hansen brought, which was one of the biggest lessons that I learned, was the value of family and how that could really shift our behaviour and connect us more with what we were really about. And back in 2015, we were preparing in Swansea, so just north of Cardiff, for the quarter-final. On the Friday before we drove to Cardiff, we had our captain's run in Swansea. We didn't want to go into Cardiff too early. We had 80 family members arrive that day. I was like packing myself, because I always thought the families were a distraction. And because I was like, high performance, we just need to be on the job. And I watched as we finished the training, all the kids run onto the field. And I was like, you idiot. You know, this is why they play. This is what it means for them. Look at the energy. The closer we brought the family, the better we got as a group. The better after a game was, because they reconnected with what mattered versus just being what everyone else does, you know. I think the other thing that we did to help with that was we would give them a really clear picture of what the year looked like, so that look, boys, we've got 3 in a row. And then you get a week off. That's where we're going to get a break. If you need to go with your family, plan it now, because I'll guarantee you I'm not going to ask you to do anything there. But for these 3 weeks, I need all of you. And we're going to have to make some sacrifices here. This is what it's going to look like. But we're really clear with that. It wasn't a surprise. Sometimes we have to put some rules in place. Yes, there's a curfew. Yes, you need to have 8 hours in your bed. But that's just about educating people to be a professional athlete. And we didn't step past those things. We said, sorry, Mark Talia, you're late home, you don't play. Because that's what this team's about, You join us. We don't join you. And I think those are my big reflections. We still had nights we had a few beers and had a good time. But the other weeks we would abstain because we were like, no, we know we need this next week and we want it.
Are there some players over that 19, 20 years that stand out as being the ones that held the standards, I don't know, better than other people is maybe unfair, but then really lived and applied those standards?
Yeah, I'm thinking of a couple of hookers. I remember Anton, he was sort of one of those early sort of leadership members, and he said to me, God, I'm a hypocrite. I used to be the guy leading the charge, and now I'm a leader. I'm trying to change the culture. I think of Dane Coles as one of the few people that could, in his own way, really lift a standard at training without offending people, but in his Colesy, hard sort of style. And Brodie Retallick was probably the same. He just wouldn't allow things to drop at training. And again, they just did it in their own quiet way, but it was very meaningful and very impactful. And I'll share another story with you, which was around Artie. So as rugby got more and more commercial, more and more I felt that, like I'm asking more and more. Steve and me are like, this is impacting performance. And contracts were $1 million a year, and now 30, 40 million a year, and there's like 6 or 7 of those people. We're not.
Just to jump in here, so because right now that your job has been split into 2, right? There's a commercial manager and a sort of a day-to-day manager. And so you
in present day All Blacks.
Yeah, in present day All Blacks. But
so what happened in my time was in the Hansen area towards the back of it. Gilbert decided that he could make himself available full time to be part. So we split the All Black manager's role then, and so I became the All Blacks manager for business and operations, and Gilbert became the All Blacks manager for leadership. We still had a group of 5, but those were the areas that we were accountable for.
Those are 2 big departments, right?
Yeah,
the All Blacks business and operations.
Yeah.
Those are 2 full-time gigs.
But, we were lucky. We had a lot of resource and lots of people, and we were up to like 35 staff by the time I finished. So
what did you start with?
12.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
A football
I remember
staff.
Steve Tuoi saying to me, because in 2005, the Lions came with Sir Clive, and he had 3 buses, 1 for the management. I thought, I'll never get like that, Chewy. I finished like that. That sort of changed the dynamic a bit in terms of that. But the commercial, I was really starting to feel that. And suddenly I'm not just dealing with the CEO of Air New Zealand, I'm dealing with Sir Jim Ratcliffe, the richest man in Britain. And it was just a completely different landscape. And what I wanted to do with the players was to give them a bit like where can you decompress, where can you can't. I wanted to give them certainty around the commercial program. So look, we're together for 6 months. I'm going to ask you to do 10 events. Here they are, and this is what they involve. And if I'd always cap it, and often what happened is often a few events would drop, so I'd have the joy of ringing them and go, you don't have to do it today. And so that was a win for me, but they always knew what it was. So every season, I always wanted to just keep educating who's new, what that means, how do we act, how do we behave, how do we engage, try and get a rhythm of them showing gratitude for things that were given to them and all that. And I remember one year, I think I'd given this presentation and I was about to do it again, and Artie came to me and goes, are you doing your commercial thing today? I go, yeah. He goes, how about I do it for you? Because him and I had been going through this ongoing battle with him commercially, He had his own clothing business that was in conflict with Adidas. So him and I spent a long time trying to find a middle ground for both parties, really. Because again, I'm walking beside you. Because I believe you wanting to be an entrepreneur, that's great. That's making you a better human. And that's what we're about here. And we're not just about winning rugby games, we're about making people better. And so, he did that for me. And it was like, wow, like here's the here's the man delivering my message.
Yeah.
There you go, son.
Yeah.
So that was pretty cool too. If you talk about standards, like trying to raise, because we need to be good in that area too, and the hotel example was a classic. But then when sponsors came back to us, and when Adidas globally came back to us and say, we have to deal with Beckham, Lionel Messi, you guys are way better than them. You're like, I'm proud of that, I sat in an airport with Ma Nonu in Frankfurt. We'd been to Germany. And for ages, they've been saying to me, we'd love to get Ma as a face of some of our campaigns. And I just didn't think Ma was ready for it. And we eventually went there, and they're actually going to get him to help design a boot, the lightest boot the All Blacks have ever had. And he signed a contract when we were there, and we're sitting in the Frankfurt of it going home, and he just looked at me and goes, I get it now.
There's levels to it, isn't there?
There is, yeah. And he got it, and I said, it's not hard, is it? And he said, no, you just got to be a good person when you turn up and do what they want you to do. I said, exactly. And I often say to players around, try to shift the mindset around the commercial work. Well, actually, don't see it as a burden, see it as an opportunity. I mean, look at what's Jeff Wilson doing now, what's so-and-so doing now. How's that opportunity arisen? I mean, Angus Tarver was saying, mate, you're built for TV. Like, take the opportunity. So, and if you do that stuff well, you're actually training yourself to do that. Yeah. I didn't get through to all of them, but the smart ones, they see the light,
That commercial encroachment is a really interesting one, because on one hand, you have a role with the team to protect the team and ensure the high performance. Yeah. And on the other hand, you've got an obligation to the organisation to ensure maximum return. So that push pull is
it's a real tension.
Yeah. And did you must have got better at it as you progressed?
Oh, I don't think I ever got better. Just the conversations got pretty deep and hard. And I think what we got good at, I think I'm trying to think of an example where we really wanted to bring cameras in much. I think when we did the Silverlake deal, and so part of that, after Amazon. So Amazon was a disaster. We were not ready for it, and it was 3 weeks of hell, really.
And are you running point on that as
I'm
commercial and ops?
I'm carrying the can for that,
Yeah. I don't think you can call them that.
So that was tough. And like every episode, I'd have to bring it back, and Steve and I would sit there, and and in the end, it was so edited. It was and it wasn't us. So we get to Silverlake, and we're like, okay, well now we've got NZR Plus, and we've got to build all this content. And I think what we did well, even though we still didn't probably nail it, was we got all the right people in the room. We used to do this concept of the jigsaw. If there's a problem, it's a jigsaw. There's pieces everywhere. Let's get all the pieces in the room together, and let's nail it, and let's do it once. And so we had a great discussion. It at least gave us a framework to be able to operate it. And once we'd agreed it, we were a group that once we've agreed something, we wouldn't ask questions until we had to debrief it. So, but yeah, personally, I still struggle with the balance of it. I always found it a super challenging sort of balance. And I think I invested a lot of my energy in helping the sponsors understand who we were, what we're about, what our rhythms were, how we could, what's your win, what's our win. And that worked well, because we ended up with a really good program where I felt they probably gave us more than, we gave them a lot too, but they definitely made some shifts in order to make things work better for both parties. By way of example, a sponsor comes and says, I want to have a dinner with the players during a test week. I'm like, well, actually, they'll turn up, they'll be tense, they probably won't do a great job. How about next week, once their bye week, they do it? Because then they'll probably stay all night and have a few beers. Yeah. And so it's just problem solving, trying to figure out what's best. And there's some great joys. I had great satisfaction of bringing the CEO of Adidas down to the changing room and introducing him to people. And I go back to Germany, and I'm working with the rugby people, and they get a call. Oh, CEO wants to see you. So you're up to his room.
That wasn't Zion Armstrong, was it?
No. This is global. He's a global C.
Yeah.
He's a German guy, Herbert Heiner, wonderful man. You go into his office, and the only picture he's got in his room, McCaw holding the World Cup. Yeah. I wonder whether the secretary's just been a bit snide.
Open the drawer and then be messy with the World Cup.
Was it today, or was it Gabriel Selassie today? Who is it? But special. To sit at that foot, have those opportunities. I've still got connections with them today. which is awesome. And they're good people. They're a great company. I imagine how it would have been with Nike versus Adidas. We're so fortunate and still going 25 years on.
I'm interested in your reflections on the end, 2023. We had Ian Foster in here last year, and he's another example, a bit like Shag, of a guy we had only seen from press conferences and clips, and we met a incredibly wholesome, witty, sharp, fun, engaging, loyal guy, and you hear all the words people are sending around him. That was perhaps different to the image the media were projecting leading into it, and it got really messy and really ugly. And you're at the heart of this.
Yeah.
You're supporting Ian through these difficult times, I imagine, and the other staff, and everyone's kind of, if he's out, everyone's going, I'm not sure what the dynamic looks like.
And understanding the organisation's perspective, I guess, as well.
But what can you say about that whole saga, how Ian was treated, that trip to South Africa? What stands out for you as important about that time?
For me, it was sad. I was sad that we'd lost so much of what we were so good at. And I think particularly the upline management, executive and board, we'd had this period of stability with Jock, with Mike Eagle, with Chewy. All that had gone. It just disappeared. Brendan Hibby came in very different style from what we were used to. Right, I think totally wanting to grow things in a good way, but it just wasn't the same. And as that progressed and as Silverlake came on, there was just so much tension everywhere. Like the players are getting dragged into the conversations about should we, shouldn't we. There was decisions being made around inequality and gender balance, and all those things are surfacing. So that's forcing decisions at governance level that are, in my opinion, wrong. I agree with gender balance, but also agree you've got, what are you there for first? So we've got to get that right too. So I felt, in that particularly, if I go right to the end, I really felt for Dame Patsy. She was asked to do a job. I have a huge respect for what she has achieved in her corporate role, but she was asked to do something that it was like Richie in 207. She just wasn't ready for that role. And the legacy of her time will be the All Black coach who got sacked before he'd finished. I found that so sad, like this triangle that I'd been part of for so long, chair, CEO, All Black manager, that had gone, just didn't exist. We were a silo, we were an island floating along, just put the walls up, we're just going to get on and do the best we can, knowing that we don't have the backing like we're used to. So that's where it's at for me. And again, Mark Robinson was a player that I worked with in the Crusaders. And in fact, him and I once went to Robbie on behalf of the players to challenge Robbie around some of the ways selection was happening and so forth. So I felt really close to him. Him and I used to have a coffee when he was a board member. And then, at the end of 23, he's come around to my house to say, well, you're done, mate. Yeah, you're past your use by date. We need a new voice inside the building. It was hard to take. It was. I didn't feel like I was past my best. I certainly think my last 2 or 3 years weren't my best years. My marriage finished. I was really battling with depression myself, so I just wasn't anywhere near my best. So I was probably, in hindsight, I'm glad I got told to go actually, because I guess in the end I finished in a dignified way and made my peace with the organisation and left well. So. But it was a rough period, given all of that we'd done before, and you chuck COVID in as well. So Ian, he didn't even have a chance really. I think certainly Gilbert was a really strong anchor for Fozzie. There was a few times in that campaign where Bert was away, so I probably got closer to Foz than I did with some of the others in that sort of personal, because I was always really careful of how close should I get. Because I've still got to wear that organisational hat too, and sometimes I'm going to have to be divorced from them in a way to deliver the role, because I was so conscious of that. I'm different, and I can't just follow. I have to lead here, and I at least have to say it. I might not win it, but I have to say it because that's what the role demands, and I'm not representing just the team. I'm representing rugby in general. So. Yeah, it was tough. Yeah, so I can't put any harder than that. A lot of it, I read Ian's book and like I thought I knew 100%, but I probably only knew 80.
Really.
So he was, how he held himself was remarkable through that. And when it's coming at you from the wrong side, it's hard to be that dignified. I'm just, I was so, gosh, I just wanted that last game for everything, just to be able to walk away going, well, okay, we got this.
What were the emotions like before that last game? Because you knew that was going to be your last Test match.
Yeah.
Are you preparing for it in a different way?
No.
Still the same measured?
It's the same, yeah. Just do your job first. And highlight for me of that tournament was actually, getting to the game is a big part of the manager getting it right, like timing. So, and Stade de France is in the middle of nowhere, so it's normally a 40-minute drive from the city. And I'd spend all week preparing that. I'd have my security go out and drive it twice at the same time of night, just so we could kind of get that right. As I said to the players, like, it'll be plus or minus 5 minutes when you got to drive like 45 minutes in a city like Paris, even with police. So we're driving to game 1 against France. We're like, I can see the lights. We're a K away, and I'm looking at the watch, and everything's going good. Suddenly we stop. We've got 6 motorbikes in front of us. We stop on this open highway, and I've got the French copper beside me. I say, "What's going on?" He goes, "Oh, Macron's arriving." I went, "Oh my God!" But we're the All Blacks. So anyway, after the game, I'm in the tunnel. A friend of mine, a French guy, is a chef, and he happened to be the chef for Macron and the previous French president. For 20 years, he was a chef of the president. He's in the tunnel. He goes, "G'day, Shandy." Yeah, hi, Guillaume. He goes, "Oh, do you want to meet Macron?" I was like, "Oh, yeah, whatever, So half an hour later, he knocks on the All Blacks door. He says, "Come on." So I end up having a chat with Emmanuel and sort of soft chit-chat to start around Jacinda and how he loves New Zealand. I said, "Oh, I've got a bone to pick with you." And he said, "What?" I said, "Well," I told him the story, we're getting close, and then I hear you arrive, and like I've never been late with the team ever, and we lost now, and his face sort of dropped. I went, I got you. Anyway, at the final, he's presenting the medals. So we go up, get our silvers. I go up last, puts the medal over me, goes, "Good to see you, Darren. Get here on time today." Like just little moments like that.
Yeah.
That. And I when you're not playing, I don't feel as invested in the result so much. And in the end, our final was the quarterfinal. I think that's when we showed who we really were, and again, I was just grateful for the final, and gosh, would have been the greatest story ever, given the circumstances of the match and Sam and playing with 14 and up against our greatest rivals, but it wasn't to be. And I sit at home. There's 2 World Cup winner medals there. There's a silver and a bronze. It's a pretty nice return.
You mentioned depression there. It's a door I want to open in case you're willing to walk through it, because it's everywhere in society, and a lot of our listeners are dealing with it. And I am interested, if you are keen to talk about it, what you experienced, how you got out of it, where you're at now. And it perhaps ties into, we're keen to talk about the realities of life on the road and being away for so long. And it's quite an isolated sort of world.
Particularly in the early days, I spent a lot of time on the road. Like the All Blacks generally 120 days a year, but I'm doing all the prep as well. So I was going to Wellington 4 days a week for the first 3 years, away from my kids. My first daughter was born in 2005 and my second in 2007. So Jan brought them up really. When I was home, I wasn't working in an office, so at least I was home, but I was away a lot. I would say 8 to 9 months a year for the first 4 or 5 years. And I slowly started to pull it back, but it was still, I would say, the best part of 150 days a year for 20 years. When I said to my girls when I finished, "What are you going to do, Dad?" I said, "Oh, I still want to do some work offshore." And they said, "Oh, yeah, you're normally away 3 or 4 months. That's fine. We're used to that." Like they've kind of got accustomed to it. And I think particularly the latter years, I was more at home because I could choose, and things were well set up, and I didn't need to invest in relationships as much because they were established. But I think, that really, I think Jan and I grew apart with that. I probably got a bit seduced by the environment, and some of my own behaviours probably weren't good enough in terms of keeping a marriage going. and that in the end I got caught, and that smacked me, right. I was like, oh, you've really lost yourself here, and I couldn't get out of it. One day in Auckland, I sat in my room. The bus was due to go to training, and I wasn't there. And I think Gilbert rang me, and I said, oh, I'm not coming today. He goes, oh, it's fine. But then I sat in my room, and I actually froze at my desk. I couldn't move, and I was just stuck. And there was a knock on the door, and I couldn't even move to go and open it. And it was the hotel manager, who was a good mate of mine. He just walked in, he just had one look at me and left, went and rang the doctor and brought him back. And so, that sort of precipitated me getting checked out, getting some help. And things at home were tough too with that, because I'm really bad at showing it. I couldn't hide it. I used to say to my team often, if I walk into a meeting, this is what I want you to say to me if you see me not looking good. Hey, Shandy, why the long face? And it was just like a trigger for me. Come on, Darren, you're better than that. I had another episode on a tour we did for 17 weeks during COVID times. Yeah, and we're in Washington, D.C., and I had a similar moment. I just couldn't. I went to a leaders meeting, and that for me was my test match, because I could be myself, I could lead, I could present different perspectives, and I just sat there quietly, and Ian says, you're very quiet today. I went, yeah, and I just walked out. I went to my operational meeting, and I should not have gone. In hindsight, I was not in good shape. Ian got really angry with me for being that way, and not talking about it, and so I had to open up to him and say, look, mate, this is a battle for me. I'm on drugs and trying to get myself right. Sorry, drugs to help my depression, not drugs generally. And I think once a few people knew, that helped, and it was slow. It took a long time. Marriage finished, and I just had to look deep inside. In the end, only you can fix it. Only you can fix it, and you can get all the models talk to you, and you can do all the clinical work, but in the end, you've just got to decide. And I knew that I needed to move every day. I've trained relentlessly through my life. I used to carry my road bike on tour so I could go riding. Boys used to look at me like I was an idiot if I come in after 4 or 5 hours out riding the bike. How do you do that? Yeah. I just keep going so I can keep away from you. And I just found reconnection again with other people. I reconnected with people that I knew really well. They didn't judge, they just were there. And it was a very slow burn. And I mean, today I couldn't be happier. I'm not having to take medication. I've learned to keep the voice inside me quiet. I let it talk from times, but I'm better at managing it than I was. And I'm really inspired by the work I'm doing. Like the reaction I'm getting to the work I'm doing I really struggle with self-belief. I have the whole time. And when you live amongst the alpha males that I did for so long, I think it wore me. It's just little chips over a really long time. And so I'd recover, but maybe not back to 100 again. I'd come at 99. And that's not blaming, or that was me. That was on me. And so I guess I've learned courage late. And I feel I've got it in bucket loads now. And, I talk on stages globally now, and I'm happy as, I'm happy to share everything. It doesn't bother me, because that might help someone. And that's, I guess, I want to be beside everyone, and I want to be that person that gives them that opportunity like my dad did,
The role of a manager is such an interesting one, because it's a social but lonely existence. And I by no means is the all whites beast anywhere near the all blacks beast. But there are little things I could imagine that would chip away. I mean, you're a constant across 20 years, and you've got coaches coming and going. You've got players coming and going. You're constantly having to build new relationships and start from scratch. It's really makes sense to me that would erode your sense of who you are and what you're doing, plus all the time you've got alone to think and reflect. It's I can't think of a comparable job to what you do in terms of a manager of a sporting organisation moving around the world for so many months of the year.
You just have to compartmentalise what you need to do most, and that became a superpower, in that you've got lots of people, you've got more and more people around you doing more and more, but you become the person who has to keep taking it away to make it more simple. And as I say, like I was, as much as I was with some real alpha sort of personalities, that's probably helped shape me too. Again, I recall a situation that happened to me. Do you remember the listening device story?
Yeah.
We haven't talked about that one, have we? Steve was a policeman, obviously, and when Michael Cheika became the Australian coach, he was like, ooh, not sure about him. He's got lots of resources here, and so occasionally, not all the time, not being overly paranoid. I would say we were careful rather than paranoid, but just occasionally I'd just run a sweep of the hotel, get the high-tech listening gear in. And, it's one day, blow me down in Sydney, my security guard says, come up to my room, and he shows me this chair and there's a listening device in it. It's still going. Wow. Long story short, my security guard who was working for me got accused of planting it. He ends up in court. I end up as a witness. The court case is finishes a year later. We're playing Australia. I might have been interviewed at the time and said, well, the media might say, what do you think? How do you think it could be? I said, could be the opposition, could have nothing to do with rugby, could be someone else staying in the hotel. I don't know. But we're playing Australia. We smacked them. And my security guard has come in the night before and said, mate, charges all been dropped, it's all good. But he said one thing that did happen is Michael Cheika came to court on the last day. I said, okay. Why? He said, I think he came to get a record of what was said in the case. We finished the game. We win convincing. I'm standing in the tunnel. The manager of Australia walks out and he points towards me and Check's beside him. So Check walks over to me. Are you the manager? Yes, I am. And you are? I gave him that one.
That's nice. Yeah. That's nice.
Because I'm Michael Bleep Cheika. I said, lovely to meet you. And he just went on this tirade about the court case. He said, if you have implicated me, I'll go you and so forth. And I've got Steve Chu just behind me. And he's like, you okay? Yeah, I'm fine. And I said, look, Michael, let's just stop there. This isn't good. It's a scene. It's in the change room after the game. There's people everywhere. His players are walking out, they're looking at him. I said, let's just get one thing straight here. My man's not been implicated into it. So to be honest with you, Michael, I don't have time to talk to bullies. And I would never have been able to be that person having not had the experiences and realising the difference between, I don't care about position. I'm more interested in who you are. And that's why I had a good conversation with Macron, because I wasn't worried he was the French president. I just wanted to meet Emmanuel. And, in our environment, you see lots of people coming in, they're fans, like they just can't see past it. And I think that served me really well, because I'm beside you. Who are you? Oh, you're Artie. Okay. I don't care, you're the best player in the world. You're Artie. So I think that for me, that kept me, so the challenges of the manager's role, that kept me there, because that's what I was there for, to be that. So the noise is a noise, and you build a great system, it does it for you, and then you just enable your people to help you get there, and let them lead. I try to make myself redundant. That was the goal. Didn't quite get there, but certainly got easier as time went on. Yeah.
So the end comes, you're not required anymore, however you want to frame it. That was about 3 years ago now. So Can you tell us about what life looked like on the outside of the All Blacks bubble after 20 years in it, and then what you're doing now and what you've been building? Yeah,
so I left, I made the decision during 2023. So I got that done well before the World Cup. So I actually started my ideas in the middle of that year. Yeah. And I had no idea, what to do. I went to a couple of recruiters and just had a conversation. And I was with one particular recruiter in Christchurch, and we'd been talking for 20 minutes. And she said, stop. She said, you need to go and start your own business. And this is what you need to do. And this is the person you're going to need to go and talk to. So I met this lady in Queenstown who ran a business. She came from a farming background, ran a rural trading company for years and turned it around, one of the first sort of women in agriculture to have a senior role, got involved in governance, became a renowned international people coach. And she just helped me build this little business called Winning Teams. So the concept was really, how do you build the team around the team? If you look at a business, there's teams everywhere within organisations, and they get fixated with what's the next thing for me, rather than how can I be the best version of me right now, and how can we as a team grow together so that we move north-south together. So then the business gets better, or the sport or the team gets better. So we sort of shaped something, and obviously used the 20 years as a nice little entry point to start conversations with. So now quite a bit of keynote work. Quite a lot of that becomes a workshop. So they might pick an idea out of a keynote and say, could you come and work with a smaller group of us, and we develop that into some action. There's quite a bit of work in sport. I'd call it an advisory role rather than a consultant role. I don't want to go into an organisation, write reports and give recommendations. I want to go into environments and feel it, see it, hear it, and provide feedback to the people that are running the environment so that they grow. A few sports I've worked with on an annual basis, they're in a campaign, and you get in a campaign and you get a little bit narrow, because you keep, the outcome really becomes, where are you on the table? How many points do we need? And so I can come in and be that external person just to bring them back to centre again, think about what happens next. And I learnt that we did that the whole time I was in the All Blacks with a gentleman called Don Tricker. And he was, his nickname, his code was Fly on the Walls in this week. And that's literally what I've done. And the more I've done it, I really feel I feel very comfortable walking inside teams, and I just, my attention's aroused by all of it, because I can kind of see what's trying to happen, and so I love that. Like I've got great joy out of doing that, and the work hasn't come as easily in that space. I look at Gilbert, and he's got Chelsea and New South Wales Rugby League and cricket, and I'm working at a different level. I've been working with Touch Football Australia with their teams. I work with an AFL club. I did some work with the Silver Ferns, but I've got aspirations I want to get into the top leagues. I really want to see what I could do, how I could bring not so much my All Black experience, but my skills to observe and understand what's needed in a high performance environment to be successful, given your context, given your sport, but use all the lessons that I've picked up along the way.
Yeah, I was curious, because do people come and just want the All Blacks playbook and expect they can get all the guidelines, drop it in your lap, and then you will be as successful as the All Blacks?
I wouldn't work with someone that wanted that.
But is that kind of?
I don't know, because I always start the conversation. What do you want? What are you missing? What value do you think I can add? Because I can't, if they don't have the door open enough to want to be able to move or change or pivot, then it's just a waste of their money having me there. So I want it to be real in that sense. So that's the great thing when you're on your own. Yeah, it's your choice.
Yeah, what's it been like running your own operation?
Small business owner.
Yeah.
Welcome to the club.
SME of one.
Yeah.
How many staff? One. I'm enjoying it. Yeah, it's been far better than I thought it would be. Even though I haven't quite reached the heights I thought. Some things have been, like the keynote speaking circuit, I never saw myself. I'm doing 50 a year.
Wow. Holy shit.
Yeah,
wow.
I did 50 last year. So I'm on track to do at least that or more this year.
I don't know.
I don't know. I just keep getting asked, so I just keep saying yes.
It's a pretty good sign that you're good.
Yeah.
So that's been fun, but it's not quite as, like, I get more fulfillment out of work where it's a bit more long-term, a bit more personal, and a bit more connected. Keynote speaking, fly in the night before, sleep in a hotel, get up in the morning, speak, bit of PR at the end, go home. Like, it's not quite like a week at the All Blacks.
Yeah.
It's very different. But I'm using it, I guess, as a gateway to create opportunity. And again, I'm trying to use the same principle I use with the players. It's an opportunity, boys. Did you get 2 business cards when you went to that last All Black commercial piece of work? Or I'm like, did I get 2 leads on a piece of business that now is a workshop or a program for a year working with that business? So it's been good in that sense. But my heart's in sport. That's where I really think I can do my best mahi, and that's what I'll keep chasing. And I've done a little bit of coaching work as well. So I enjoy working with young leaders, trying to, particularly in our case in sport, where I always felt the manager is viewed as a manager, like you manage things, you don't lead things. And I actually, like my experience, if you can elevate yourself to see yourself in a leadership role, you can add so much more. It doesn't just need to be the coach. If you can build more leadership, the power of many is better than the power of one. And that was my lived experience. And the results showed that worked, because we had a big amount of people that were highly talented leaders who figured out a way to work together for a greater cause.
I love that when you came in this morning, you kind of made a comment to Shay straight away about, sort of being the same, a team manager. Because for listeners that don't know, Seamus was All Whites manager.
Yeah.
And so he was really excited for this chat to sort of get into the weeds. But are you seeing a lot of yourself in
hugely.
what he's been talking about?
Yeah, the soft skills in particular, and the ability to read a situation. Or it was explained to me by another member of support staff, and it didn't really make sense at the time, but I've kind of reflected on it. It makes way more sense, is that the support staff, or however you want to place it, are like the night sky.
Yeah.
And the players are the stars, and everyone sees that, but the dark matter in between is what the support staff does to allow the stars to shine. And it was interesting listening to you say how if you take away the players' need to do everything, you're crippling them in a way. And I feel like in our sport sometimes, in football, perhaps that there's an over-pandering to that, which has depowered some of the players to be able to make some of those decisions, or to stand on their own 2 feet when difficult moments come in games or in life.
That's why your mission matters. Like, that's why it's got to be so clear. So if I could see, I go, what's our mission? Self-reliance. Oh, how's that helping? And okay. And sometimes people don't have to do anything to be effective, and it's actually better that they do nothing. And I actually reckon we were worse when we had 12, and we were better when we had 35, because we were so clear on what role was. And a very smart mate of mine here in Auckland who used to work in sports psyche, he shared this analogy that you just need to wear your jersey number when you're in a team, and that's all we need from you. Because if you look on the field, if I'm asking you to wear number 13, Stephen, and you 14, doesn't matter that you've played 100 times and you've played twice, because the team just needs you to do your role as the 14 and your role as the 13. And I always say to people, why are you chasing to be both? Or how good are you at being number 13? Oh, I'm a 7. Oh, bit of room for growth there. I can help you with that. And I think I love that picture of that's all you need in teams. But people are so seduced at trying to get above it rather than just being the best right now, and that thinking about how you could be better. I had a physio on our team, great guy, Pete. He was there from 205, and he loved high performance. He was just a high performance geek. He loved the chats with the coaches about it. And I remember sitting with one day, and we were talking about our medical treatment and what we had and the skill sets we had, and we were missing a couple of things. And they were saying, we should get an osteo in and an acupuncturist. And I said, where do you reckon you are out of 10 as a physio? I see you're spending a lot of time talking to coach about tactics and all that sort of stuff. And he says, I'm about a 7. I said, how about I'll pay for that acupuncture course for you, because that's going to make you better in your role. And how about I'll just have a chat to Foz, and maybe you just have a coffee for half an hour each week, not every day. And I think those, you start to, like you say, you start to see where the most value can be added. And I think people got really clear on role and just realised, that's my contribution, and that's what matters most.
I've heard you use that number analogy. I think it was Sam Whitelock's last test, where he was number 19, and it was about being the best number 19 the All Blacks had ever seen, or he could be, versus the best number 4, and not starting.
The number doesn't matter. You're wearing the All Black jersey. So, and we, fill the jersey, be the best. It's your time, your moment. Doesn't matter what the jersey is. It's still that jersey. So, because did you hear the start of that story?
Yeah, well, you have. I'd love you to retell it.
Oh, so when I decided to leave, he said, "Are you going to pass on everything to the next generation?" And I was a little bit hurt, I was like, "Nah." He goes, "Nah, that's the All Black way, Darren. You have to." Okay. So the week of the quarterfinal, I'd named the team that day, and he was 19, and you could see it. We finished training on Tuesday, and we had a 100-meter walk back to the hotel, and we had scooters for the whole team. We walked out the training, just me and him. There's one scooter. Oh, you take it. No, you take it. Oh, God, let's just walk. So we walked. I said, what? Like, yeah. You haven't been your usual bubbly self today, What's the go? He goes, I'm pretty disappointed not to be starting. I said, well, what jersey number are you wearing? sorry, what All Black jersey number are you wearing? 19. I said, okay. The All Blacks way is that whatever jersey you wear, it's your time, your moment. Stop there. He looked at me like, damn you.
You got me.
You got me. You got me. Yeah.
There's a few little bits. I'm going to bring us on the home straight. First, before I forget, if someone is listening and wants your service, where can they
Winningteams.net.
Winningteams.net.
Winningteams.net, that's me, yeah.
We are sponsored by Barkers. So in every episode, we ask our
Everyone shuffles.
a bit of fashion or grooming advice. And actually, our mail from Kieran Reid was that you will be good in this department because you're one of the sharpest dressers in the All Blacks.
He said you own an iron as well, which Rito apparently didn't, based on his episode with us.
Do you have some fashion rules you live by or grooming advice?
I love David Beckham, I just loved
You're only human.
his style, just his style. And so I think particularly our relationship with Adidas. The first year I went to Adidas, the guy who was looking after the team was an Irish guy, and he looked after Beckham. So you go into his office, and 3/4 of the room was personal boots for Beckham. Every game, a new one. I was like, oh, yeah, he's a man. And so, anyway, this guy's name was Paddy. He was Irish. Funny that. He started me on, like, I'm going to make sure you like Beckham. Okay, I'll make sure that you're the Beckham of the team, and I'll make sure that, like, they have samples, right? Often those samples never go to sale. So I was sample size.
Oh, you're the sample. Oh, that's, yeah.
And
that's
so I'd always get...
Is it $9 US?
Yeah. I'd always get kit that no one else had, And I used to... I'd sort of do it on purpose around the team, especially after outfitting, they'd get all their new stuff and they were really happy, and I'd walk past with something else. Oh, where did you get that? And that kind of became my signature thing, Shandy's always got the... And then I discovered at Adidas, they had a brand called Y3. And so for Y3, the Y stands for Yamamoto. He's a Japanese designer, 3 for 3 stripes. And this was a high-end fashion brand where sort of fashion meets sport. Sold very exclusively in real small stores, really limited ranges. And every time I go to Germany, you'd get the free shopping experience, and I'd go straight for the Y3 because no one in New Zealand had it. It wasn't even sold here, So then I went from Shandy to Y3. And a few of the boys started to understand the story, and they're like, it's not fair. The very first, this is how good the quality is. The very first pair of shoes they gave me were like the Converse sneaker, but a Y3 version. In 2004, I still have them to this day, and they're in mint condition. Yeah. It was unbelievably good stuff. Yeah, always, pay expensive because it lasts forever.
That's a good one.
Were you a tracksuit manager on the sideline or a suit manager?
No, tracksuit manager sideline. Yeah. Always tracksuit. Yeah.
Never a suit?
Never suited, no. But I love to be, I love my suit to look pristine after the game, ironed and sharp. And some players wear suits badly, But I was like, the man, shoes polished. Oh, there's a good shoes polishing story. We were on in Johannesburg at the front of the hotel. They have the bus boys out the front, doing your shoes. We're going to a game. We're all on the bus. It's like 5 minutes ago. Steve was always just on time. He goes and sits on the bus boys so he can get his shoe shine in front of all the boys before the game. Like, oh, man, no shame. Funny.
The last one is a little bit meaty, but I want to sort of talk about the high-performance sport environment in New Zealand now, and if you're able to give us an overview on it. Yeah. New Zealand rugby's got its well-known issues. There's still no CEO. Recently haven't had a head coach or performance director. New Zealand netball has been a shambles. There's big issues in New Zealand cricket. What is your perspective? Why are we having these leadership breakdowns?
Yeah, I don't know if I have the answer. I'd only experienced one type of way of doing things. And I think Crusaders, in a way, was really the beginning, and then that kind of what that experience was grew instrumentally through the All Blacks in its own way, but it kind of came from the same point of we've got to make culture and leadership a critical part of us being a great team. And so when I went out and started looking at other sports, which I hadn't really in New Zealand, I was, oh, wow, this is not what I'm used to. This looks different. There's a lot of dependency inside these environments. People are quite happy to be told what to do. People aren't owning things. There's a lot of work on the game, but not much work on all the other things. players would come to you and say, oh, how well, and they're a senior player, and they'd say to you, how well am I playing? And I go, well, actually, I'm more interested in how you're leading. And so I don't know if we were so fortunate with Gilbert's skill set and having Kerry as the encyclopedia of academic knowledge around sports psych and all of those sort of things, that we actually ran a school of building people into leaders, including us, because I was exposed to all the same things that the players were. And I don't see the same commitment to that. I still see a real focus on the key elements: technical, tactical, physical. And I still think to this day, and I agree wholeheartedly with Gilbert, the mental domain is still the ugly duckling, and people are scared of it, but they don't see the value of it. There's very few teams a lot of teams will have a mental skills person, but that's fine. But what is he trying to achieve, and how invested are you in having that, and where does it sit within your program, and how important is it? I don't see a lot of that. We've also, one of the other areas that worries me is because of a number of things that have gone wrong in sport, cycling, every sport's had some sort of investigation. We've got very scared, and we're trying to stop things happening rather than thinking what could it really be. And so we're putting lots of things in place to prevent things rather than thinking about what we could be. So, for example, a lot of teams have to have a clinical psych, which is really, and I don't disagree with people have got to be well to play, but there's another whole angle too, that you've also got to be mentally strong to play as well. That's a different skill set. One of the ways we sold it in the team, and I love this analogy, was when I run out and you're marking me, Stephen, and I'm like, I know I've done the physical work and I know you have, so we're equal there. But if you've done the mental work and I haven't, wow, I'm not in the game. And I don't know if we've quite nailed all that.
This ties into a quote I wrote down. I hope I got it right. You can't outperform your preparation. I love that.
Yeah. Yeah, like people don't turn up the Olympics and have a good day.
Yeah.
And that actually came from a piece of research done by a New Zealand researcher who interviewed every Olympic medalist, and that was kind of the leading headline from that research. And it's the same. And you can't prepare for everything. You can't what if every scenario. But Monday to Friday make all the difference. And it's very rare in sport that someone just has an out of the box performance without having done the proper preparation. So, yeah, 9 times out of 10, I think that's always the case.
Can you translate that into business as well? Is that what you're attempting to do with winning teams?
I think with business, less so. I think more with business is trying to change the paradigm of how do we learn fast. So if you think about a business, and I said this to the conference I spoke to last night, most of your year, if I graphed your year like a long line, most of it would be black, and the black represents work. And there'd be a little white strip last night, which is called a conference, and that's your training day. That's where you learn. If I look at sport, it's all white with little black marks, because we learn all the time, and then we perform. We learn, then it's the opposite. That's how we learn. We have to learn fast because the margins are small and opposition's checking us out. But in business, we just work. And often we're not really connected with what our mission is. We don't see learning as important. They often don't realise that learning doesn't mean having a conference. It might be a conversation in the morning to set the day up for your team. How did yesterday go? What did we learn? What are we planning to get done today? How can I help you with that?
That's really good. I can see why you've had 50 keynotes. That's really insightful. I've never
just
thought
2
of it
minutes.
like that. Yeah.
It's just 2 minutes. But yeah, so many people I talk to in business, I'm so busy. Okay, just can you write down the things you're busy at? Okay, then on the other side of the page, can you write down what is this organisation trying to achieve? Now, which of these things link to that? Oh, maybe those two. Why are you doing those? Have you ever had a conversation with somebody about why you're doing them? And that was the clarity we had. Like we knew you have to bring it back simple. If you're playing for the All Blacks, Stephen, you're running out, I just want you to be clear and light and bright. I don't want you to be heavy or overwhelmed or anxious, but that's how we are at work every day. How can you perform? You can't. That's what high performance teaches you. How do you strip it away to what really matters? Things like your mission, or what is the way we do things here, that we will never walk past and that will pull people up on, so the behaviour is seen right across the team or the organisation. So yeah, those are the things that I enjoy, just challenging people on, just looking at it through a different lens, and sport doesn't have all the answers, but I think the lived experience I had of sport, I look at the learning and the growth, I'm like, wow, you're not even close to that.
One of the recent changes has been Gilbert has actually been brought back in to the All Blacks management after some time away, which is unusual. But how do you see that? Is that a good move?
I think it's enormously positive. If you think of post-2023, 35 staff, 30 left. So the only real sort of, I'd say, senior leader left was Nick Gill. Now he's gone as well.
Who's left?
So not saying that everything we did in that period should be copied again or used, but there's a lot of richness. There was a lot of legacy laid down there that needs to be retained in some form, and then sandpapered further by Dave and his team as they go forward. And it would seem, I struggled with the fact that a lot of that was like, it's done its time, because some of it wasn't so much about the people, some of it was about really good structures and systems and behaviours and things that were laid down forever. Like, it's fascinating reading of All Blacks in the 1903. I've been reading recently about Dave Gallagher, and he asked the boys on a trip to England in 1903 to go and write down their roles, not their job description, but what will I do as a winger? What will I not do? What am I accountable for? Who do I need help with? What am I scared of? This is the 1903. That's our legacy. And that's amazingly rich. So I think he'll bring a lot of the past, because in the end, you've got to know the past to build the future. And Dave's hugely experienced and has been across the international game, but the All Blacks is different. He's got a lot of things in his toolkit that are going to set up really well, and he's coached the Wallabies. But I think in New Zealand, leading the All Blacks as the All Black coach comes with a whole different remit to perhaps leading the Wallabies in Australia, for example.
Do you think about, it obviously hasn't gone well since you've left, and Razor, sort of the unprecedented sacking of Razor. Do you sit on the sideline and think, I wonder how different it would have been if I was still there?
No, I don't think that way. My initial feeling is a sadness that I'm part of the problem, because I've always told myself that your effectiveness as a leader should be what happens after you leave, as much as when you are there. And so I was sad that a lot of what was built by a whole lot of people stopped effectively. I reflect a lot. The one thing I did reflect on, Artie rang me one day and he said, all the old people have gone. So, yeah. But I think, and the great thing that Bert does, he builds terrific relationships with head coaches, builds trust really fast. He's a really good observer. He's a fantastic facilitator. He wins the confidence of people really quickly, and they'll need that. And that'll give Dave, if there's areas where Dave's not sure, hasn't navigated before, well, Bert's going to be able to inform, and I think that'll be hugely valuable for them.
If that door did knock, if someone knocked on your door, would you be open to going back in the camp?
I honestly don't know. Yeah, it would depend on what they wanted me to do, and that matters the most to me. And I say I'm loving the freedom of being so committed. I don't know if I'd have the energy to be on the road 150 days in that kind of atmosphere. Whereas I know I can go and spend a week somewhere and give it everything, and then reflect and be able to just keep offering more from having that in-out experience. So, hey, you never say never. And love the team, I always will. I'm unbelievably proud of what I was part of. That was my time. That was my moment. So Yeah.
You say that, and this is really interesting because 20 years of IP. Does the phone ever ring from people who are currently in there and say, hey, Shandy, what do you think about this?
A little bit, not too much. It was pretty quiet for a couple of years after I finished.
It's crazy.
No, it is what it is. Like it's.
I think that about sport in general is that there is, and maybe you spoke to it, there is a fear of what has happened.
Yeah.
It's almost like if we acknowledge it was really good back then,
Yes.
we're not doing a good job now.
Yeah.
Well, no, you're not. You're just seeing what worked really well and what you can
That's right.
take and change and adapt to your own way.
Yeah, no, I'm with you 100 there, Seamus. It's what can you build is that mindset that you adopt around that of not fearing it. But it was a bit like when we started, and you've got the Fitzy, Zinni era, and they were motivated by fear of letting the country down. That was what drove them. And when anyone comes in, you've immediately got 77% winning record across history. You start with that and you're like, well, if we're going to be afraid of that, we're not going to achieve anything. We've got to, that's why the storytelling matters. Like, what will our story be? What are we going to write? And that became so strong for us. Like, I don't know if you've ever heard anyone talk about the All Black book.
I've heard you talk about it.
Yeah. And so during that period, we developed this book for every player. So it was pretty professionally put together, leather bound, had your All Black number on the front of it. And after your first test match, you'd be presented this book. The front of the book talked about our legacy. Why do we have a cap? What do the ties represent? What are all the trophies we play for? Who are some of the great teams of the past? And stories written by players from that era. In the middle of the book was a picture of you in your first test match wearing the All Black jersey. The back of the book was empty, blank pages. That's where you write your story. And so the power of that was players who'd been around a while, who'd played 5 Bledisloes and were about to play one, they'd bring their book out. Can I tell you the story of 2012 when we played Australia in Sydney? This is what I wrote in my book after the game. Like, immensely powerful. And so we turned legacy into something that we celebrated and we chased, and we built an honours board. So I'd walk into the club rooms and I'd look up on the honours board and I was made a life member. And it's just our little All Blacks club rooms, but that means the world to me, you know.
Does staff have a book as well?
No, staff didn't have a book, but staff got recognised. So if staff had 100 tests, they'd be recognised like a player was. So I think we did well at equalising that a lot and really making staff feel the value of being inside the team as well. So, but I think we also felt as staff, like you said, they're the stars, we're the night sky, and people were comfortable in that space, but they still felt valued and they belonged there and they had a purpose. And so, yeah.
Is there a chapter in that book about the first time the All Blacks put a commercial sponsor on the front of the shirt to help explain, like Artie did,
No.
the commercial obligations?
You know, I look back at that because that was AIG, the American company, and their logo, they removed 40% of it so that it wouldn't have such a significant impact on the jersey. And so you go, actually, we've got a partner here that understands our story. And so I think that was cool. And one of the challenges of my role was I was not responsible, but I drove the process for the jersey design every season. Yeah, it's quite an easy brief, black, silver fern. But when you're dealing with a global apparel company,
you're the white collar or no white collar?
sometimes. Well, no, not just me, but I'm bringing it to the final chapter, and then I'm bringing it to a group of custodians, so formers, currents, board, and saying, here's my recommendation, here's the story, this fits the All Black on-field criteria, here's what Adidas are trying to sell in terms of story around this design and so forth. So again,
The blackest black.
the tension, the blackest jersey ever, and the white collar, the retro, and they've got good marketing people that come up with great stories for
Yeah,
selling
what
those
happened
things.
in 2007? The great. That was you?
That was me, yeah.
Yeah, where'd that come from?
I don't know. Like, I just, but since then our alternate jersey has always been white, plain white.
Did you
like
ever think
again-
about dabbling in a New Zealand flag blue?
No, we never.
Just an idea.
No, I mean, we
Football
were
tried that,
really,
didn't work.
really tough on. Eddie would come back with all sorts of, different ideas, and the one thing that sat in the contract that I'm actually quietly proud of was, in the Adidas contract, they had the rights to put 3 stripes on the jersey. And to their credit, like AIG, they never pushed it. The very last jersey we played in, the very last jersey I signed off, which was for 2024, had 3 stripes on it. But tone on tone, up on the top of here. And I took a picture of it and I sent it to Herbert, the CEO, who had since resigned, and said, because he always used to say to me, when are you going to get 3 stripes on the jersey?
When I leave.
Because I used to say, well, don't you want me to win a World Cup first? He goes, oh yeah, do that. So I won 11 and 15, and he goes, when's the 3 stripes coming? So I finally got there. And so they played with 3 stripes in 2024 on the jersey. So.
But that's an interesting case study in terms of the power of the pushback based on the legacy that we all buy into and that we all talk about.
Again, what's your win? What's our win? I think some of the great stories in Japan in 2019, remember I talked about Y3, the apparel company. So they got Yamamoto to draw a fern because of the connection, and he's Japanese, and we're playing in Japan. So and suddenly there's a fern wrapped around our jersey, sublimated, so you can see it up close. So the customer buying it, they get this special thing, but on the field it's just a black jersey with a. So there's some great. I love those sort of, where commercial and performance come together. There's real meaning. We had Yamamoto come in, talk to us. Like there's a power in those. When you get it right, it can be really, really, really good.
You talk about the book and club rooms and these jersey presentation or cap presentation. Are those other big internal cultural moments?
Capping historically was always. We used to have after-match functions, and that was where the capping was done. They were one of the old things that disappeared, and maybe we didn't have enough money in the NZR to pay for them, these big flash events. So capping then became often back at the team hotel, but still the president did it, captain introduced, talked the story, always the families there. What was the other one you talked about? Capping and
jersey presentations.
Jersey presentations. Yeah. We typically on match day, the jerseys are set up in a room. And from about 2 o'clock if it's a night game in a U shape. So you got the 15 seats, jerseys all sitting. If there was a milestone, we would all go into the room and we would talk to the milestone. If it wasn't, you just walked in and picked it up. Best jersey presentation? Rugby World Cup semi-final 2015 in the UK. Willie Apiata's in the house. And Willie spent quite a lot of time with us. When he first got his VC, his CO rang us and said, could we bring Willie and spend some time with you, because I'd love him to be able to talk to some of the high-profile players, because he's now going to go from being a soldier that no one knows about to one of the highest-profile people in New Zealand. So Willie, he sort of ended up hanging around the environment a lot. So he came with us to 2015 because we renamed our defence, which Smithy ran, Wiremu, after him. So he's with us, and so we're in this dingy hotel somewhere in London, and we asked Willie to present the jerseys for the semi. And prior to jersey presentation, we go and do a little run round inside, just get a few line outs, just a bit of a stretch out. We come back, the room's set up with all the jerseys. The boys sit down, Apiata wanders in full military dress with all his medals. Oh man, I'm just like, whoo, this is intense. And he's very quietly spoken, Willie. He walks into the middle of the room, he just eyeballs every single person. Goes right round the room. And all he says is, I think we're ready. It was brilliant. Honestly, just special.
That's brilliant. I think it's a pretty good place to wrap. The last question I had was about your future.
Yeah.
And do you have goals? Are you the sort of person that looks down the line and sees things that you want to achieve, or how do you approach it?
I've never had a goal, ever in my life. I was brought up, like I said, this unremarkable family life, but I go into that independent stage of my life and I think, get a house, get a mortgage, get a wife, get kids. That was the mindset. But that didn't all, some of that worked for me, some of it didn't. And I reflect back on every opportunity I've had has been an opportunity rather than a goal. I never had a goal to be the All Black manager. It was an opportunity. I went, I'll take that. I thought I might be a CEO by now. Didn't come, but here's an opportunity to start your own business. Oh, I'll give that a crack. you want to do this keynote? No. Do you want to do that one? Yep. I like that opportunity. And so I like to freestyle. I've freestyled enough to know that I have enough belief in myself that it'll all turn out okay, because it always has. And so that's the way I'm running life now. I still want to be the best dad, and I'm super proud of my 2 girls and care for them deeply, and we have given everything that's happened, special relationship. I drove my daughter home from Otago a few weeks back. We were shifting some stuff around her flat, and I thought, she'll be on her phone all the way home. We talked for 4.5 hours. Oh, wow. Yeah. And my youngest, who lives in Christchurch, there's not a day where she doesn't ring me. So that's pretty cool. So that gives me a lot of joy. And I've got someone else in my life now, and that's given me some joy. And so I'm just in a quite content place, and I'm still ambitious. I'm super competitive, and I want to do more. And it's not that I'm trying to beat Gilbert or anything, but I'd love the chance to try, and particularly in your guys' passion in football. I look at football and go, oh man, I'd love to have a crack there and see what I could do, and I'm hopeful there's some opportunities in that space soon around the corner. So we'll see where it goes.
Well, thank you so much for sharing your story
Welcome.
with us. It's been such a cool. It's been all over the place, but it's just full of absolute nuggets our audience is gonna love. So thank you for everything, for travelling down and giving us this time. I know how valuable your time is. I've really loved your company and your story, Shay.
Yeah, it's an interesting one, because over that most successful period of All Blacks rugby, there are these peripheral characters. A lot of the attention goes to McCaw, to Steve Hansen, but there are so many people that are in the room, that are right there at the coalface, and yours is a story that I've been wanting to hear for so long. So to be able to get snippets of it this morning today has been really, really awesome. But to think in this seat about the potential impact that you can have on other businesses, other organisations, other sports too is pretty mind blowing. When we had Rito in here, he was talking about the second part of his career. I feel like you're into that phase of yours as well, which is very, very bright. So I wish you all the best for that.
No, thank you. No, it's been I love what you do, and I love to be able to share with people that I know come from the same place. So thanks for making it a special time, and a time that I'm happy to share what has been. So cheers.
Cheers, Shandy.
Need a speaker or MC for your next event or conference? Frank Speakers have a fantastic range of professionals to choose from, including a bunch you'll recognise from this very podcast.
Yeah, names like Zion Armstrong, Dr. Alia Bojalova, Kanua Lloyd, Karen O'Leary, and even Seamus and myself, all available exclusively through Frank.
The Frank team work with you to ensure your night is not just in safe hands, but that it's a night your guests will remember for all the right reasons.
Reach out at speakers.frank.net.nz and mention code B2B when you inquire to get 20% off your booking fee. This offer is only on through May and June, so get in quick. That's speakers.frank.net.nz. There are people you never want to forget. But people get old. Memories fade. And then one day, it's too late to ask the questions that matter most. That's why we created Reflections, to capture the magic before it slips away.
How did she like camping?
At Reflections, our award-winning interviewers sit down with your loved ones with time, care, and curiosity, and capture their life story in their own words. The result is a beautifully crafted family documentary your loved ones will treasure for generations. One day, you'll want to hear that laugh again. We make sure you always can. Reflections, keeping family stories beautifully alive. Find us at reflections.life.